Welcome everybody to SAC Season 9, the third qualifier. I am Pat here with Rocket, ready to open the show and watch all of these wonderful teams compete to get some more points to qualify for the finals. Rocket, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful, Pat. We have our first matchup already set up and ready. We have Distinct versus Rewind. Now, in terms of how they've done so far, actually, Rewind, this is their first qualifier that they've actually participated in now. They haven't accumulated any points, but hey, maybe an opportunity to maybe sneak in with the third and fourth qualifiers. Taking a look at Distinct, they are currently 46. They have only scored 5 points in the first qualifier, but now hoping to change their ways here now. We have in groups play all three, so it's going to be really interesting to see how both these teams try to build themselves up, especially since now we are in the later half of the SAC qualifiers.
Yeah, this is the second half, and both of these teams have still a lot to show because, I mean, as you said, Distinct, they were here for the first qualifier, they didn't make it out of group and only got 5 points. That isn't much. You need much more if you want to make a name for yourself in this competition. Rewind, don't know that much about them, but I don't think I've seen these names, so I guess they're NA and you know something about them, Rocket.
I mean, we've seen them around occasionally. I've seen them participate in prison breaks here and there, some SOSs, but yeah, they've been a pretty consistent team. I mean, you take a look at this roster, you have Peaches, Omega, you have Cabbage, and Rezi. They have been around and together for a while. Same thing could actually be said for Distinct. I mean, they've been around. I mean, looking at them, their main two, Tiger and Muji, have just been around for, I believe, like 2.5 years, according to them, and then you have Afro and Rafa rounding them out. So yeah, both these teams have had great chemistry with each other, so it's going to be just really a battle of, I mean, who can really coordinate with each other the best.
Yeah, Distinct has very much been a fixture of EU Splatoon. Starting in low level, I remember them playing in low ink and absolutely shredding. And now I think the last Luty season they were Division 3, getting so much in terms of results, in terms of improvement, all the while keeping their identity, keeping their special weapons. Let's see what these teams are able to do against each other now as we are starting.
Yeah, we are starting on Splat Zone's Robo Ramen. Let's see what these two teams bring for us in terms of comp. We see Muji on that bow. Very interesting. Not a common weapon at all we see brought here, but I like it a lot, especially on Robo Ramen zones, because sometimes you see teams run maybe Explosher, but you have the bow here filling a similar niche of being that poking ability, trying to play keep away here for Distinct. Actually, 3 players, actually a quick wipeout for Distinct, already making a name for themselves quick here with the quick wipeout, already in great position now. They try to extend their lead.
Yeah, and that's the power of Distinct, especially at that level, is that nobody is ready to fight with bow. You're not used to fighting a bow, and Distinct know exactly how to open against a team that doesn't know what to do against the bow. But here comes the answer by Rewind getting in there and being able to at least neutralize and now flip the zone. Distinct, it's now their turn to push. Rewind, very nice answer, but Distinct already got a good amount of points in the first minute.
Yeah, something I want to notice as well, Pat, both teams are running the crab edit, which is very interesting here. I mean, you have Rewind running that dynamo for the cooler, as I say that it goes down, so there will be a little bit of a delay on that cooler for Rewind, but so far Distinct Inc. have been able to just continue to apply this pressure. You see the chums grow out as well to provide more space, more momentum here. The dynamo just trying to create some presence there in the back, but we see the use of these crab edits. They provide so much firepower and with so large of a range. It is very oppressive and hard to deal with if you're retaking, and we're seeing it right now. Rewind have been just locked out so far.
Yeah, Distinct holding the zone incredibly strong. The Tetra is coming in and able to splat the splatling. That is so important right there. Distinct will have to move back, keep the space back to Rewind. Ooh! And a very nice trade onto the bow beams. The whole middle of the map is yellow now.
Yeah, Rewind with an opportunity to get back into. You see the sprinkler up there as well to provide more inking power onto that zone. Now, this. Now Distinct's turn to try to get back into things. We see the V-Shot managing to find one, trying to find more with that. Zuka won't be as much, but 3 members are down for Rewind yet again. Distinct Inc. now are in the zone, and now they don't have a lot of penalty to go through and not a lot of score to go through either. The cooler being popped by Rewind to try to get back into things, but so far, Distinct Inc. have been able to keep hold of the zone really effectively here,
Very effectively indeed, and right now Rewind are at least able to contest, but not enough. Afro simply getting Splat after Splat finally punished, but there is no penalty on the Distinct and the Rewind. They've lost almost all of their players. That Crab Tank needs to play in the zone, otherwise it's going to be the end.
Yeah, but we're seeing the power of the bow and finds another, and that will do it there. Distinct Inc. We don't see bow players often, but when we do, it is always a treat to watch, Pat, and they showed us why. Distinct Inc. strike first.
Great first game by Distinct, and again, that's the way that Distinct loves to play. It's having that bow and that roller together. All these weapons that are good, but you're not necessarily that used to fight. Not as much as, say, a pencil or a zap. Distinct doesn't run that, and that plays to their advantage because they know their opponent isn't as used as fighting them as they are used of the configuration they will create. Rewind still has the opportunity to learn. They need to learn fast though, because this is a best of 3.
Well, yeah, but you still have the opportunity to play all 3, so you still at least have the opportunity to maybe get yourself accustomed, maybe get yourself warmed up. Remember, this still is our first group round, so we still have maybe some rust to go off, maybe a little cold hands, but moving away from that, we have now our second match, Clam Blitz on Scourge Gorge, which I've seen to be very, very volatile in terms of how teams really can pull away. I mean, Clam Blitz itself is a very volatile mode, but with it being Scourge Gorge, it provides an opportunity to where the map is very, very hard to, I'd say, like maybe on other Clams maps, probably like Museum, where it's a little bit easier to get in. Here on Scourge Gorge, it is a very, very narrow path towards that goal, and with the height disadvantage, it's really challenging for teams to really maintain those bushes.
Yeah, one thing that you noted in the previous game, Rocket, and I think needs to be noted especially in this one, is the Crab Tank heavy edit. They're going to... A Crab Tank on top of the map covers the whole map, allows your team to push. Crab Tank can allow you to defend, can allow you to attack. On this map mode, you cannot underestimate the Crab. And here comes the opening by Distinct, already getting a few good flats and setting themselves up forward.
Yeah, and we also see Distinct Inc. I love to see that regular Splat Rollers, as 3 members of Rewind go down, that Splat Roller has bubble in its pocket, and there it is. The bubble is available, but not choosing to use it, as Distinct Inc. are already here. They're already in Rewind side of the map, and they have the bubble. There it is. There it goes. The giant shield here to now provide more of an opportunity for Distinct Inc. to continue this roll. Omega goes down to that roll, but 2 players of Distinct Inc. will go down to that Dynamo. It has been so deadly so far here. Now Rewind with the ability to defend, but still a huge lead to start off for Distinct.
Distinct very good at recognizing that they didn't need that bubble to hold the basket, and then using it to be able to bring more clams in. Is what allowed them to now have a huge lead, and with few players down onto Rewind, Distinct is not stopping, they are not slowing down, and they are going for more and more and more. They already have 12 clams on them, and Tiger is in position. Tiger with the roller always ready to get so much. Distinct is going to reopen the basket very soon now.
And we saw that Zuka shot. Now 3 players down from Rewind. It's just less than a crab edit. Never mind. It is a complete wipeout for Rewind. Now Distinct Inc. have the opportunity. They have the 2 specials as well. And yet again, Bubbler is available for Distinct Inc. But will there be clam fall up here? There will be. The ball will manage to find its way towards the goal. Now Distinct Inc. have a huge opportunity here to try to continue to go for their lead. The crab edit will go down here, but Rewind scrambling, just trying to save themselves. 11 is on the score. Distinct Ink almost in knockout territory here, but now eventually the members of Rewind will rally themselves, but they still will lose 3 players in that scrum. The Crab Edit, really the only thing saving them.
And that crab gets punished by the ball right away. Rewind cannot catch a break right now. This team cannot do any wrong, are still going on to the attack. Get to pay a little bit because you cannot underestimate the Tetra running at you. And right now, Rewind still defending their own basket. Despite this thing losing a few players. Okay, okay. 3 players down, Rewind gets to get back onto me, collect some plants and prepare.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time left in this pad. 2 minutes, so a little bit less than half of the match to be played. A beautiful pick there by the Dynamo onto Tiger. 2 players are down for Distinct Ink, so now an opportunity could present itself for Rewind to do a similar push to what Distinct Ink has done. Yet again, 2 players are down. Healy, the backline, the bow, and the edit have to scramble for it, as now Rewind will get their first push of the game here. Now 1 clam away from the Super Ball, but they will just choose to throw some clams in. They will get quickly taken down here, but Rewind have seen their momentum a little bit stopped here now, as Distinct Ink have been able to push them out. Now, that is a good initial start for that push, but the danger is now Distinct Ink have that mini clam in their back.
This team being very patient in their defense right there, simply throwing curling bombs under the basket, knowing that they would stop Rewind's push right there. Working so well, but now we're back to the fight for mid, and Rewind needs to win it. There's pretty much just a minute left in the game, Rocket, and Rewind still has a lot of plans to put in the basket.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen the special uses, we've seen the crab, we've seen the bow, and we've seen this long-range pressure from Distinct Ink that have been the bread and butter of their pushes, just being able to set up their frontline players, that roller and that V-shot in great positions and with a lot of ink around them now. With 45 seconds left, it is crunch time for Rewind if they want to stay in this game. The bubble is popped and the ball is lost for Rewind here, but Distinct Ink have been playing so patiently, like you mentioned in earlier, Pat. Now, they really don't have to get in a push it. They can just play smart and play for time.
Rewind needs to get something now, and they are contested left and right, not being able to establish control over the middle and still defending their own basket. They're keeping that Super Clam alive, but Reef Slider not able to find a single plant. This is so rough for Rewind right now. 10 seconds left, and the only Super Clam for Rewind dies. This is very rough. No clams left, and that's going to be game 2 and the set for Distinct.
Yes, the set is lost now. Very well played from Distinct. They played keep away near the second half of that because they didn't really have to develop any pushback. I mean, we saw that quick aggressiveness from that initial first push, and after that, after they made their statement known, they played smart. They made sure not to go too aggressive here and lose too much momentum. But now Distinct Ink have won this set, but still we have a third game to be played, which will be on Obo Ramen yet again on Rainmaker. No, that I don't think that's right. That is Museum. It's Museum Rainmaker.
Yeah.
Correction. Yeah, Museum Rainmaker. What are your thoughts on this map mode, Pat?
Since the update, it's gotten even more dangerous. You know, the update made it so that when you're from the spinner, you can directly jump onto the top of a checkpoint. So you can get the checkpoint instantly from middle, which means you can snowball a push faster, which means you can go even faster. And I expect both teams to get that checkpoint. This checkpoint is so easy to get, that's something that's going to happen. But the question is, who is able to re-grab that Rainmaker from that checkpoint and then dive forward to get as many points? If you get down to 30 points from a KO, you are already in a very, very good spot. If you get to 20, the game is pretty much yours, honestly.
Yeah, that first checkpoint is usually won pretty easily, but like you mentioned, that the true battle is heading towards the goal. I think the key matchup here will be the roller on the Distinct Ink side and the Dynamo on the other side. I mean, you just create so much area denial here, and you have to deal with it. You have Tiger on one side, and on the other, that Dynamo. You just have to get rid of that the other team's roller here, and we're seeing actually I think a switch up here, the light tetra dualies as well with that basically Spider-Man web. I can't think of the special name right now, but you have the Zipcaster. There it is. There, off of my mind, Zipcaster. Just to be able to create more backline presence here in Rewind, try to make sure they can at least steal one game here from Distinct Ink, but already in the opening 30 seconds, Distinct Ink already are going towards the first checkpoint, and they got it.
Yeah, very fast checkpoint already, and with 2 players down onto Rewind, they will be able to get the repop. Now it's a matter of getting the points. Rainmaker is to grab, but Rewind is getting the flank, only able to get a trade. Both teams still looking at each other, waiting for everybody to respawn so that the push can happen. Distinct still waiting, and very nice splat on to the Tetras right now. Distinct stays in control of the Rainmaker rocket.
Yes, but their push is being stagnated a little bit or delayed a little bit by Rewind's presence. 2 players are down. You see that Dynamo on that left side trying to find a cheeky pick onto that Rainmaker carrier, but the rest of Distinct Ink is here to help that Rainmaker carrier. However, the time is limited on it. 20 seconds are left for them to make a move here, but they need to make it happen fast. A good pick. They're 2-star, but 2 members of each side actually fall in that scrum. Yeah,
there is 10 seconds left onto the Rainmaker right now. They need to go forward, and they are getting to 33. That's very nice for a first push, especially since it leaves a lot of time in favor of Distant. Rewind cannot waste much time now.
Yeah, basically almost 2 minutes taken off of the time there by Rewind, but the Rainmaker already in a very in front position, however, will get quickly shaken down by Afro there. 2 players actually are down for Rewind, so now it is them on the defense yet again. A beautiful Shark will find one, won't find the second. A quick trade-off by that roller here, but now Ink try to continue to extend their lead. Dynamo yet again finding another pick onto Hyper, and potentially the third here on the Rainmaker. They will not quite able to complete the quadruple, but that will slow the momentum for Rewind's foot of Distinct Ink's push a little bit here, but the bubble still in so far for Distinct Ink that Rewind has to respect it.
Still in the danger position. Absolutely. Oh wait, no, Rewind grabbed the Rainmaker and went back to mid. That is huge. They're able to simply save a little bit of time, and with all that happened, keeping themselves alive in this game is already a pretty nice one. As I say that, Distinct is already back onto the platform with the Rainmaker.
Yeah, Rewind so far have just been playing defense here. They need to find an opportunity to where they can put Distinct on the back foot now, because so far this entire match they've been put on the back foot. You see the Rainmaker actually taking this elevated position here, could be going towards the goal, but will be shut down by that Dynamo here, trying to get a little sneaky around, and actually Distinct will lose one of their members to a disconnect. So now this could be huge. This could be an opportunity for Rewind to get back into it now, moving 4v3.
I mean, it's the opportunity to take this, be able to make it work. Rewind needs to be able to go forward now. They don't have the checkpoint yet, and they have a minute and they have to get it. All Distinct needs to do is shark around mid and finish the hasty push.
Yeah, for sure here. It is near crunch time now, but Distinct still showing that fight. They have the comfortable lead, and especially now being down a player, you think now they do what they did similarly in game 2, which is just play smart, just play a little bit back and take these advantageous fights just to make sure they can maintain this lead and go for the sweep here. You have up there a lot of specials available. You see both edits having the crab. You see the Zuka being popped in, and 2 actually in that. What a beautiful pick there. What beautiful couple picks there by Distinct Ink, and continuing to show this fight as that Zipcaster shut down. Now Hyper will pop that crab. You see a crab versus crab up there. 45 seconds left. Another pick by this roller. It has been going huge now for Distinct.
Every fight, every move is going the way of Distinct. Distinct are simply outplaying Rewind, who are not able to set themselves up into mid with pain. Right now there's always something to stop them, and Distinct, with just 25 seconds left, are still in control of this game.
Yeah, it is do or die time now for Rewind. You still have to get past that first checkpoint if you want to stay in this, but Distinct will just try to fall back and make sure that doesn't happen. One final push. 10 seconds left. Rainmaker is picked out of the air there, and the rest of Distinct Inc. are just camping at 5 seconds left. Rewind needs to pop the Rainmaker and grab it quickly if they want to stay in it. They will manage to pick the Rainmaker to try to force overtime here, but they have quite a ways to go. But that is a good start. 2 players are down for Distinct Inc.
Yeah, Distinct still in the lead, but now the Rainmaker is about to be repopped. Rewind, able finally to set themselves up. They need to duck Bazooka. Bazooka almost got them. It's 2 versus 2 right now on the map, and the crab tank is deployed. Distinct winning the 3v4 and getting the 3-0 in this set. Commanding win by Distinct.
We saw their gameplay. We saw how they like to play in game 2. That quick aggressiveness push at the beginning and then playing smart near the end. Now, we saw something similar here in this game 3. Now, I want to mention maybe a factor of that was obviously that disconnect, but we saw how smart play can really just overcome challenges such as being a player down here. And although they were pressured there by a great rewind push at the end, they ultimately hold firm and they complete the 3-0 sweep now in this round 1 groups.
Yeah, I mean, it was really Distinct taking control of the map, taking control of the speed of the game, taking control of the pain, taking control of the fights. Distinct was simply on top of every aspect of this game. Throughout all 3 of these games, and even in a 3v4, I mean, they were no longer trying to push, but they were able to call out and stop everything Rewind was trying to do there.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what led them to basically play on cruise control. Now, we will be taking a very short break before we move on to this next group match, but we will be right back for SAC qualifier number 3 here shortly.
just your alley, baby. Give me a chance, take me deep. White and a vision, the white and a yume o atarashi mono. Sore dake de mono, chouhou sareru, yo! Gimmickじゃない、ギリでもない。Address me with the words. 見た目じゃなく、見る目でしょ。I was dressed so right. ガチガチな価値観。Now I can move. 価値が光る前。Keep on it smooth. 決め作業、朝まで残業。What color was my soul? Infinity, dignity. Track no trap, and you don't have a tip. Simon face, they bite your face. Put your hands up, do the peace. Me, the peace, knowing me. ジレンマにはショットで勝負。Uppers, call her, so that go find the mark. Amenities, knowing me. ジレンマにはショットで勝負。Uppers, call her, so that go find the mark. So that my words can start glow, and you might not have to blow. So that my words can start glow, and you might not have to blow.
Welcome back to SAC qualifier number 3. Rocket and Pat are back here. We are in for a very, very interesting match here between two teams that have two different tales to how this qualifier means to them. I mean, you see the Cafeteria versus Helios here. The Cafeteria, taking a look at their standings, they are just one. They're tied actually with Tigers in 4 for that last spot in the finals for qualifiers here with 110 points. So really, they needs to do well in this qualifiers to keep pace with all those teams. And if you take a look at Helios, they actually haven't played in a qualifier yet, Pat. So really just an opportunity for them to make a name for themselves, especially since we have this qualifier and only one more qualifier for them to sneak their way in.
Yeah, and Rocket, one thing to note about Cafeteria is that they missed Qual 1.
Mm-hmm.
They missed Qual 1 and they're already on the edge of being qualified. Better than some teams that have gotten to both qualifiers and not that far behind. A lot of the teams that are ahead of them have been to 2 qualifiers. So now if they're able to repeat that, if they're able to do that again, they're in a very, very nice spot to qualify. As long as they do it for this one and the next, they're nice. But before they do that, they need to beat Helios.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's 61 teams, I mean, count 62 for Helios, that have played in a qualifier, and already Cafeteria only playing 1. They're ranked 13th. They're 13th up there. Like, they are already up there with a very impressive placement of 4th previously in qualifier number 2. So, like you mentioned, it is going to be vital and key for them to continue up that pace. Now, just taking a look at our maps here, any of these maps really stick out to you? We have Splat Zone's Crab Leg as our first one, Clam Blitz, Barnacle, and Dime as our second, and third, Tower Control on Hagglefish.
It's I feel like Splat Zones on Crab Leg is not necessarily a hard map, but it's a map that can decide a lot, and that how hard it's going to be will depend a lot on what comp you like to run. Obviously, if you have the team with the most range is likely to have a huge advantage, and how these teams are able to play off of each other's range will decide how they're able to win on this map. And I mean, we don't need to speculate anymore. Let's go. And no backline on either side. I guess the range blaster is going to be the longest range. On the other side, it's the Squelchy.
Yeah, you see Brendan and Milk running that Crab and that Wave Breaker respectively. On the other side, I like the comp choice coming from Cafeteria. You have the ability to play around the 10 Umbrella. The Roller will also provide its value there, and it provides a pick. 2, 3 players of Helios are down, and just like that, Cafeteria will strike first. But like I was talking about for Cafeteria's comp, you see the 10 Umbrella, and you see these 2 weapons that can really play around the shield well. You're seeing it right here, the Roller and the CRB.
I believe we have color swap and Helios.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, according to the team tags, yeah, Helios is in yellow, sorry about that, and Cafeteria is now trying to answer. They're able to get a few good splats with the Crab Tank deployed above the zone. They're able to take up control of the Kraken. Will probably be a problem for them, though. Helios is answering stronger and stronger every fight. Helios is going on head on, and with absolutely no fear. But right now, Cafeteria seems like they're finally in control of the map.
Yeah, and you noted at the beginning, Pat, these are some very interesting comps in terms of there not being a well-defined, like, true backline, you would say. You mentioned the CRB, and on the other side for the Cafeteria, you have the dually sculptures, which is very interesting here. You have weapons that really just play the poking ability and really play to their long-range ability. But we're seeing already, actually, 2 players go down from either side, but the lead swap will be in favor of Cafeteria, as once they were able to get the point back, they have not looked back at all. Now down to the 30-point mark. We can see a reverse here really, really quick with that.
It was almost a fly penalty right before Cafeteria got that lead, but Cafeteria not only captured the zone without losing the penalty, they also have still more players on the board, and right now Helios are simply throwing themselves at the zone. It's not going to work. Cafeteria, after a rocky start, are able to take control of the zone and hold it.
Yeah, Helios with the initial punch there, knocking it down to 40, but this is what I love about Splatoon competitive. It doesn't matter how far the lead is, it doesn't matter how hard you get hit initially, you can hit back with such a powerful force. And once the Cafeteria were able to get back into zone, they never looked back. I mean, we saw the lockout ability of them. They were just able to execute it better.
Hey, at some point in zones, if you're able to not move backwards, which is what the Cafeteria did, they never worked back. They simply held their ground. That allows you to never lose the points. I mean, the second Cafeteria had the zone, as you said, didn't need to look back, didn't need to move back, and Helios, they were kind of reliant on their Zuka to find the pushes to get their way in with some range. I feel like the Kraken was not working for them because, I mean, Cafeteria didn't have a backline. They all had very, very fast weapons that were able to evade that Kraken.
Yeah, for sure. But after that, we will move to game number 2, Clam Blitz, Barnacle, and Dime. Now, I like the comp that Helios was running. I mean, I talked about it, but I love it especially on Barnacle and Dime here. It could be very interesting. I mean, you have that narrow pathway for the goal for Helios to really work around here, and you have the CRB to help with the range disadvantages you might see. So I wouldn't be surprised if Helios ran back a very similar comp. Now, if you take a look at the Cafeteria, their comp can also really benefit from the flat land here. I mean, you mentioned those dually squelchers and their range and their poking ability. So it's going to be really interesting to see if we see any weapon changes here.
Yeah, well, so a little bit of changes here and there, and I think the Cafeteria is the team that needs to change because, as you said, Helios, they had the kind of composition that allowed them to push forward. Cafeteria, if they want to score on Gambits, they need to be able to go forward to get in as well, not simply hold their ground as they did. And right now, Helios with another explosive opening, being able to get 3 down onto the Cafeteria. This could be very, very good for Helios. They're already next to the basket.
Yeah, and already off to a blazing start like we saw in the previous one. They will manage to get the ball in the goal here now with more clams to follow and to boot. You see the bubble being placed by the splat roller. We're seeing a lot more and more splat rollers nowadays just because of the ability, trying to dance around, trying to stay alive a little bit, just the kit, just to provide that shuriken ability, but they will go down. Off to a great start, down to the 56 point, but now Cafeteria have an opportunity to push back with that pity clam.
Now this is Cafeteria in control of mid, a very different team, but Helios, they want to play off of their momentum. They get called down, they're still fighting for that mid right now, but it looks like the Cafeteria is getting more and more control. That being said, they need to get in and they need to get a lot of clams in.
Ooh, the continuing presence here, but shut down by Helios. And now they've got the opportunity to really recollect themselves a little bit, because so far, Cafeteria have been able to push up a little bit, but still met by a brick wall in Helios. Now forced to jump away. Helios now can continue to extend that lead, especially since the two members of Cafeteria will fall. You see that Inkjet will find Soda in that, and now you have two specials online, the Tenzuka and the Bubble, now opening up for a great push here. Now with Cooler as well, you have the feeling that Helios is just waiting to get towards that goal, and there they go.
Helios not slowing down, getting more clams in the basket. They're now at 34 points and counting, still getting more. That tent is dancing around. It looks like Helios is getting more and more in terms of speed and momentum, being definitely there in that mode right now. Just 7-4. Okay.
Just like that. Just like that.
Whoa.
Helios took that previous loss to heart. They, this time, kept up the pressure and kept it to the max, never looking back. A quick 100-0 knockout, Pat. I mean, we saw how they weren't able to keep up that pressure in the previous game and gave the Cafeteria the opportunity to come back. Here, they didn't give them any time at all.
Yeah, and that was really the solution for Helios right there. Do not let the Cafeteria stay comfortable, take their positions, because that's what allowed Cafeteria to take game one. In their on Clan Blitz, Cafeteria got back to mid once, but they were in the fight. They were in a fight the whole time, and they were not able to set themselves up. Helios a bit faster, a bit more adapting right there, and showing that they can very much answer the first blow that Cafeteria dealt. Now it's all going to be decided by Rainmaker, and having your set decided by Rainmaker on Hagglefish Market, where one single jump can get you 50 points, that has to be stressful for both of these teams.
Yeah, actually, I think it's tower control. I think we might be mistaken there. I think it's tower control actually on Hagglefish Market. Yes, so this is going to be providing a very interesting choice here. Now, we didn't see the CRB there played by Helios, but we saw it in game one. Now, not only does it's obviously a blaster, so it can provide that area of denial and really difficult for you to stay on the tower, but Kraken provides just the ability to completely shut down a game, especially in the waning minutes of it. I mean, normally we see people use Trizuka, the Tri-Strikes, the GG Strikes, whatever you want to call them, but you just take one step on there with the Kraken and it's game over.
Yeah, that Kraken can be dangerous. It's one of the map modes where I often see a Kraken being pushed into the water, though, and it looks like we won't have a Kraken for this game either. Neither team is going to bring it. Let's see how they're able to do, and if whether the Cafeteria is able to stop the deep pushes that we just doing.
Yeah, I'm actually interested about that choice. Maybe electing to go for that Inkjet, but I don't mind it at all. But we see here the roller as well. Another mentioning of specials here. You have the bubble to really create a safe space onto that tower, and continuing to cause damage there. Will find two, continuing down that onslaught. Will get shut down by that Zuka there on that left side, but checkpoint 1 is already in favor of Helios, and they are continuing to show their relentless offense.
Helios fully playing off of their momentum. They're past the first checkpoint and they're already eyeing the second with a big bubbler onto the tower. They only have 2 players, but they don't care. They want more points. Almost jumping up 38 in the first minute of the game. That is a huge advantage for this.
Yeah, 100%. Now, with only 2 more checkpoints to deal with, you at least get past that first checkpoint, and a long stretch already done. Now it is Cafeteria's turn to push. They are in a great position, especially with 2 players. 3 players down. It's just left to the end zap here. Now the complete wipe as well. Now Cafeteria can comfortably position themselves, give themselves time to shark, maybe find some advantageous positions to farm specials, especially. You have that cooler available as well, but they need to continue this pressure because the lead is pretty large, but trying to close it already. Cafeteria is really close.
Yeah, Cafeteria not stopping. Both teams know what they can do once they have the momentum, once they have the advantage. It looks like Helios will lose the lead right there, but both of these teams are now pretty much evenly matched, neck and neck, 35 to 38. With 3 minutes left in the game, we will see more pushes like it.
For sure, Pat. I mean, we haven't even gotten past halfway through the game, and already both teams are at their second checkpoint. You see this Inkjet not finding some value, shot out of the sky by Milk there. But continuously, Cafeteria have been able to at least hold on to mid, and now they try yet again for this push. Bazooka will be there to try to stop them, but we see the cooler is paused for Cafeteria, so now an opportunity for them to maybe take more aggressive fights without having the penalty of having to wait back at respawn here. But Helios have not given up this iron wall that they've created, especially with the elevation that they have. They can really defend really effectively. We see the jetpack get 3 there. A beautiful shot. We'll find 2, and the third already now. Helios. Now it's Helios. It's all Helios this time to push.
It's all Helios, but they're already hemorrhaging power as they're trying to push. The big bubbler on the tower. Oh, wait, 3 down onto the Cafeteria with a big bubbler. Helios is in a very good spot to get their lead back. There is no checkpoint. There's no first checkpoint in the way right there. And Cafeteria is dancing around. The lead is swapping, but it's just the battle left. 2 points ahead for Helios. These two teams staying within very much anything distance of each other.
Yeah, the lead is still pretty slim though, Pat. So an opportunity for Cafeteria to stay in that. I believe that Wavebreaker did actually find a second as well. So now Cafeteria have an opportunity. Beautiful Zuko shot. Will shut down another one as well. We are seeing just great mechanical skill from these players in their special usage. Now, Cafeteria only have to really get 2 more points than Helios has. But so far, Helios have done a really good job at defending here late.
A few points is all that matters, but as we are about to enter the last minute rocket, these 2 points look bigger and more imposing. Right now, Helios, they know all they need to do is simply hold the tower on that side of the map. They don't even need to get a big push right now. They simply need to take their time.
Yeah, but so far we've seen both teams, when they're being pushed against the wall, they have been able to force the other one to just fight for every inch, every single point here, and we're seeing it. Helios still have control of this tower, but this gal trying to cause a distraction will go down here. Now, this is now crunch time here. 35 seconds left for Cafeteria to get back into this, but first they need to force Helios back off of this push. That's a good start. 30 seconds left. It is do or die time now.
It's very much do or die. The Cafeteria is trying to bank me, trying to get forward, but there's constantly one player from Helios to stop them, to maintain the fight and not let them do anything. The jetpack is deployed above the tower. Cafeteria needs to get rid of that inkjet, and with 5 seconds left now they need to be on the tower. It's going to be so rough to push in these conditions. That's not going to work, and Helios is going to get game number 3.
Yes, they will win this set in round 2 of Swiss. What a comeback from them, not only in the set as a whole, but the ability to really show that they have a fighting chance. I mean, we saw them in game 2 just completely change the momentum of the set in game number 3 there. Just that triple kill from the Inkjet, and we saw the Zuka as well coming from that Tenebra. These specials were key into providing them a clean path towards their win here, and now they can look high that they have completed the gentleman's sweep pretty much.
Yeah, and remember, the Cafeteria, they got top 4 in the previous SAC qualifier. That bodes incredibly well for Helios. You need to remember these names because you are likely to see them again. Rocket, I think we're going to take a short break and get ready for the next round of groups.
Yeah, for sure. So don't you go anywhere. We will be right back for round number 3 of SAC groups.
Give me a chance, dig me deep. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Trust me with your words. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Wide on a vision, the wide on a 夢を新しいもの、それだけでもの、重宝される Yo。ギミックじゃない、キリでもない。Trust me with your words。見た目じゃなく、見る目でしょ。I always dress in rags。カチカチの価値観、Never can move。チカチカ光るマン、Keep on it smooth。隙間産業、朝まで残業。What color was my soul?Infinity dignity. Lock no trap, they don't have my tape. Same old face, they bottle face. Put your hands up, do the piece. 無実不明、vision on K. 分かってんだったら all okay. Overs, call her, so dark. Don't find your mark. Get on your mark. Culture was touring. What the frauding. またいつもの scramble. So, it's that the Rambo. 今日のキーワード聞き逃したなら headset, get set, get ready. Overs, call her, so dark. Don't find your mark. 今日のキーワード聞き逃したなら headset, get set, get ready. Overs, call her, so dark. Don't find your mark. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Give me a chance, dig me deep. Trust me with the words. 重なるよ、色を変え。Tell me who you are, what's in your mind. Effects of effects, you lost again. Step aside and see the world. Green in your mind, always in your mind. 行き先不安 Show me your smile, that's what they like. Call me your gosh. Just matter of time. Like got eyes, it's matter of fact. 気に召すまま Veracity, curiosity. 見た目じゃなく、見る目でしょ。視線失う、我見失う。Forgetting out control. 痛いくらい差し込む光全体未聞。錦の dream. Just like a charm, no doubt, no harm. わびさび聞かせて all okay. Opers, call her, so dark. Don't find the mark. まだまだここからスタートじゃない。Check out to the DJ. Realities and moralities, they're just your alley, baby. Give me a chance, take me deep. Wide on a vision, the wide on a 夢を新しいもの、それだけでもの、重宝される Yo。ギミックじゃない、キリでもない。Address me with the words。見た目じゃなく、見る目でしょ。I always dress in rags。カチカチの価値観、Never can move。チカチカ光るマン、Keep on it smooth。隙間産業、朝まで残業。What color was my soul? Infinity dignity. Rock no trap, and you don't have a tip. Same old face, they bite your face. Put your hands up, do the piece. Peace, knowing me. ジレンマにはショットで勝負。Opers, call her, so dark. Don't find the mark. Amenities, knowing me. ジレンマにはショットで勝負。Opers, call her, so dark. Don't find the mark. So that my words can start glow, and you might not have to blow. So that my words can start glow, and you might not have to blow.
And we are back, Rocket! This is now round 3 of this SAC Qualifier Season 9 number 3. We have more teams to show you, and we are now going with the Big Fat Sea Cows going against the Wavebreaker.
Yeah, for sure. And in this, we have interesting matchups here. Now, Wavebreaker, as a team, they've only played in one qualifier for this SAC season. They played in the last one, only got 5 points, so still looking for more success there. Now, taking a look at Big Fat Sea Cows, they did better. They placed, they got 50 points from placing 13th to 16th. I don't know their exact placement, but not a bad placement to at least start things off with. But definitely both these teams trying to build on more of their previous qualifiers, and maybe find themselves a spot eventually in the finals because they only have this SAC and one more.
Yeah, Stammer Paris, before we move on, can you bring back the cameras, please? Rocket, who's your friend?
Oh yeah, that is my guardian back there. That is the Aflac duck himself. He is there to protect us, just to protect against the door from hopefully no one else walking in here while we're doing this. But yeah, just a little guardian here, maybe a little good luck there, maybe a little mascot for at least this qualifier here. But yeah, he's chilling back there.
We salute the duck, and let's see if the cows are able to do as well, guard their own side of the map. Let's look at the map modes now.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure here. For sure. Taking a look at our first map, we have a classic in terms of zones. We have Umami Ruins here. Now, obviously, the quirk of this compared to other Splat Zone maps are there are two zones that you have to deal with here, but that mid control, I think, Pat, is going to be very vital for either team to really get an edge on the other.
Yeah, especially given how small these zones are. Yeah, you can paint these zones with a blaster, pretty much. That's how small these zones can be. And that really changes the way you play the game, because as you said, it's about the fight for mid, and the fight for mid decides so much. Let's see what these teams are bringing. And ooh, I love an Eliter.
I like it a lot here, providing that ranged presence, providing that just worry here. And interesting enough, we see Umbrella on the other side as well. Very interesting, having that jet there, cannon on it. We also see the use of a Junior 96 as well. Having that 96 as a backline is a very interesting choice. I believe also running Coolerless is Wavebreaker as well. And on the other side, you have Big Fat Sea Cows running that Tri-Slosher for the cooler. Very, very aggressive comms in terms of front lines for both these teams.
Yeah, and the opening fight is going the way of the Big Fat Sea Cows right now, but Wavebreaker already answering with all their specials. I saw a hammer, destroyer, bubbler right there, and the Big Fat Sea Cows are now taking their control now that all the specials are over. Wavebreaker now need a good push, and they have 2 players down already.
Yeah, and strong control of the zone as well. Big Fat Sea Cows are continuously trying to put the pressure onto Wavebreaker. You see the defensive bubble being placed just to try to find some space, trying to find an opening for Wavebreaker to get back into it, and also the jetpack as well, just trying to find its pick. They will at least try to contest at least their home side, the right side, but continuously as well. Big Fat Sea Cows are not giving up the pressure. You see the stamp going out as well, but they will just try to find a pick, but not quite yet.
Well, yeah, Wavebreaker is still in that fight, still able to get some, but they have yet to apply penalty. They're so close to it right now, but the Sea Cows are not relenting. Finally, Wavebreaker able to capture the zone and to breathe a little bit in this game.
Yeah, breathe a little bit, force a lot of penalty onto Big Fat Sea Cows. Now, they don't have any penalty to worry about. Wavebreaker can really come back from this well, but they have to worry about this E-Leader. This E-Leader can prove deadly on this right side here. Now, eventually, Wavebreaker will eventually maintain control of both zones. Now, trying to eat away at that lead a little bit. You see the Reef Slider available for Wavebreaker, trying to find a pick here. Will actually escape from them and get taken out themselves. What a beautiful show of movement there from Big Fat Sea Cows.
Yeah, Big Fat Sea Cows still winning fight after fight, but they need to capture the zone pretty fast as Wavebreaker is making more and more points and able to simply hold their ground very well. The Sea Cows are back to the drawing board, trying to push again.
Yeah, trying to make sure they don't get any penalty. They will. Wavebreaker will actually continue to hold the zone and try to inch away at that lead, but Big Fat Sea Cows trying to throw everything that they have at Wavebreaker, trying to contest it a little bit, trying to find themselves an advantageous position, and this could be it here. Wyatt, they're on the mid control here, could flip the zone. They will flip the zone. What a great retake there to maintain the lead here. Beautiful shot by that jet as well, but Wavebreaker still have a lead to take back.
Yeah, Wavebreaker answering the push from the Sea Cows right on time and getting 2 down onto the Sea Cows. Wavebreaker will get their control back. Penalties applied, but there's still a lot of time in this game. More than a minute and a half is more than enough for Wavebreaker to hold their control and get more and more points, Rocket.
They're almost out of their penalty here, Pat, but you see those two specials lighting up, the Zuka, the Stamp, the Cooler as well. You see the Zuka right here will find its target, and now Wavebreaker out of their penalty, but that will be the cue for Big Fat Sea Cows to get back into things. Now, down a couple players, now just continuously trying to maintain control of these zones, but Big Fat Sea Cows are here. They have the Cooler, and now they will take the zone. Now, a minute 10 left for Wavebreaker to get back into this, but it needs to start with taking back the zone first.
Yeah, Big Fat Sea Cows really playing well off of their advantage. They know that all they need to do is apply penalty over and over, and it's exactly what they do going into the last minute. Wavebreaker are still fighting for these zones, but they're being pushed away, and the bazooka is very, very close to happening right now. Big Fat Sea Cows are in a very, very strong position right there, waiting for the mistake, and here comes bazooka, not able to find much, but able to allow Big Fat Sea Cows to get them a bit more point. Wavebreaker going in, they need to paint the zones now.
They need to go in now, especially since they don't have, Big Fat Sea Cows don't have any penalty. They have to worry about 20 seconds left without the lead. Two players are down for both sides here. Big Fat Sea Cows will actually maintain control of the zone here, and Wavebreaker will lose another two there. We see Tree with the bubbler there, just trying to maintain that right side home zone. They need something to work off of, but time is ticking down. 5 seconds left on the clock here. If Big Fat Sea Cows can maintain hold of the zone, they can force Wavebreaker without any overtime, and that will do it there. Big Fat Sea Cows with game number 1.
And that's the thing with these double zones in the end. The Sea Cows, they knew that all they needed to do was hold one zone, and they knew Wavebreaker needed to go around and try to paint both zones at once. This made the job much, much more easier for the Big Fat Sea Cows. That gives them game number 1, and that's really showing how having the early advantage can pay off in the long run. The Wavebreaker, where they were trying to play catch up the whole game, and the Big Fat Sea Cows were simply slowing them down.
Yes, and now off of the back of that, they tried to win the set outright by winning game number 2, which will be Humpback Pump Track Rainmaker. Now, this map is notorious for being very chaotic, very volatile. Normally, the first checkpoint on this map is fairly easy to pop, but the second is so difficult because it is a funnel for Zukas, for specials, that it is really difficult to deal with if you don't have specials of your own, Pat. But what are your thoughts on it?
I completely agree with you. It's that stretch that's between the checkpoint and the KO podium that decides the games, and both teams are likely to get onto that street, to go there, but the question is, how deep are you able to go in there? How much are you able to push? And it's really a matter, I've seen, of teams waiting to use their specials till they need, so that they can get the biggest push that they can. Because if you use your special a bit too early, you get to that street, but you're not able to use the advantage that the specials gave you to make good points. So it's really a matter of, can you get far enough without using too much of your resources so that you can keep going forward.
That is really important, Pat. I 100% agree with you. Now, I fully expect, like you were touching on there, for these teams to save their special resources. I mean, I'm fully expecting for that stretch for maybe 2, 3, even all the specials to go out for a certain team at one time to try to find an opening, to find a crease in the other defense. But let's see if there's any weapon changes here. We see the ballpoint splat lane coming out from Mini. On the other side, we actually see a little bit of a switch as well. We see the bucket as well being swapped for those tri-strikes. Definitely a special to be used to get in.
Yeah, and especially, this is the map for the buckets. This map has so much like geometry and 3D geometry that having a bucket to splat above this hill is incredibly useful. And right now, Wavebreaker opening incredibly strong, already getting to the first checkpoint and getting it. That's nice, especially since they are very close to this triple ink strike, which would allow them to go deep into the street right there.
Yeah, and just like you were saying that, Pat, the strikes are going in, but being stopped right there by the ballpoint splatling in a great position by Big Fat Sea Cows. Now, a Zuka being popped as well, and there goes down the Rainmaker. I was touching on it at the beginning, Pat. This narrow passageway is so difficult to deal with that you are left wide open, and that bubbler was already used by Wavebreaker, and once it went down, it was just like shooting sitting ducks there. But now, Big Fat Sea Cows have an opportunity to answer in of their own by capturing their first checkpoint.
And they are running for it, but they lost 2 players. It's not going to work. Right there, Wavebreaker holds their lead. And they know now that they have control over mid. They have a Rainmaker, and there's no checkpoint to stop by. Their next push will be even more efficient than the previous one.
Yeah, continuously trying to put on the pressure. Now, Wavebreaker do have the lead, but it is a narrow one. And speaking of narrow, they're opening up here. What a beautiful shot by the Rainmaker. They're actually catching the player on the zip. Now an opportunity could present itself for Wavebreaker to get in. This Rainmaker just trying to provide basically artillery fire from above here, trying to find some space to operate with, but Big Fat Sea Cows are not giving up this as Rainmaker timer is near the 20-second mark.
Yeah, Wavebreaker, they're taking their time. They're taking this sweet time, letting the Big Fat Sea Cows play in their street, wait for their mistake, and with just 10 seconds left, the Big Fat Sea Cows are simply going to take the Rainmaker now and force Wavebreaker to fight for another push, which with a hammer is going to be pretty rough for them.
Yeah, Hammer going in, paving the way for Big Fat Sea Cows to maybe contest this a little bit more effectively. You see the ballpoint trying to reposition themselves for a better spot, but the bubble is popped for Wavebreaker, so now an opportunity to advance forward, and they are trying to extend their lead a little bit. They will extend it all the way to 29. An opportunity presented itself, and the speed by Wavebreaker knocked it down to 29, but without retribution, Big Fat Sea Cows will now take control of mid off of that push, but still, 3 players are down now for Wavebreaker. Now an opportunity for a counterattack here, Pat.
Yeah, it's not just the fact that they got 29, it's the time that they took to do that. They were incredibly slow to do so, and now Big Fat Sea Cows only have 2 minutes to get the lead back. They're able to get the checkpoint, they dodge the strikes, and with 2 players down, they're in a very good spot to push right now.
Yeah, but the elevation on the side could provide the value for the bucket. You saw the edit on that tower side just rain down hell. We see these Splatlings positioning themselves in such great defensive positions that you need to deal with if you're on the attacking team, and so far Big Fat Sea Cows have not yet been able to crack that Wavebreaker with the lead still, but it's not a large one. But this street is so hard to deal with. 1:30 left in the match, so plenty of time to work with it, but Big Fat Sea Cows need to get in a push soon here to alleviate some of the pressure.
Yeah, but they lost a few too many players right now. Rainmaker is going to be to reset, and Wavebreaker is still very much in control of mid right there. The hammer is behind them, and it looks like the Big Fat Sea Cows have an opportunity to push forward. All they need to do is keep that Rainmaker alive and go forward with it.
Yeah, but do they have the specials to do so? You saw the Trizuka, you saw the stamp used early, so now the only push that they're going off of is with Cooler here. But we see this Wiper trying to find some value, but Cannon on that Trizuka could provide a difficult challenge for Big Fat Sea Cows, especially with this bubble as well. This is going to be really, really hard to deal with without any specials if you're on the side of Big Fat Sea Cows. But with 35 seconds left, they want to play this a little bit patiently. They're a good pick to start things off, but they need to go in now. There is the push, the stamp going in, but no, they'll be stopped just short of extending that lead. 25 seconds left. Big Fat Sea Cows need to hop on this Rainmaker quick.
And the Wavebreaker not wasting a second, grabbing the Rainmaker, getting splatted into mid. Big Fat Sea Cows, they get a repop, they get another try, but this is their last one. This is their last attempt, and they have a hammer in front. The bombs are being thrown, trying to stop them, but it's not enough. Oh wait, they're just a few points and they get...
What a comeback there, Pat, in the last waning seconds of it. Big Fat Sea Cows managed to steal that game. Now, I think what the deciding factor of that was that member of Wavebreaker grabbing the Rainmaker and dropping it down in mid, putting it in a great position for Big Fat Sea Cows to pick it back up, and with a great push, with that special, you saw the stamp, they were able to steal that one up under the noses of Wavebreaker. What a comeback, Pat!
It was so close, because that's such a hard choice to make, especially when you're so close to the end of the game. Wavebreaker had the choice between keeping the Rainmaker there and hoping that they don't get splatted, that nothing wrong happens, or just defending another push. And they had been defending every push for 5 minutes, so I guess they tried to do what they'd been doing, which is defend another push, but Big Fat Seekers, they finally were able to have the extra hammer in front of their push, in front of the Rainmaker, to allow them to go further, to have a bit more oomph in their push onto the street, and get the 2-0 right there. But Wavebreaker, so close to getting the victory here. They still have a shot at getting one game off of the Sea Cows, and it will be on Tower Control Inkblot.
Yeah, now something interesting about this map is the path of the tower that you take is basically an uphill climb. I mean, at every point, you as the pushing team are at a elevation disadvantage from start to finish, and that provides a very, very interesting wrinkle here. Now, we mentioned and emphasized, both of us, the use of specials in that previous map, but I think it can carry over here as well, because it is so difficult here, because yes, you don't have those narrow alleyways now on Humpback, but now you have those elevation disadvantages that maybe we can see the bucket again really just benefit from.
And what? Oh, and we see the Eliter come back. I was kind of hoping for the ballpoint to come back, because I love to see a good inkjet. But yeah, the Eliter on here will be able to dominate the whole of the middle of the map. That Eliter cannot be underestimated, and the Wavebreakers will need to find a way to stop that Eliter.
Yeah, and also interestingly on Wavebreaker, you see the use of 2 splashdown weapons. You see that custom blaster, and you see a Nautilus, which we're seeing to see a lot more. At least I am seeing a lot more used in tournaments. But Wavebreaker are managing to at least get the advantage here. 3 players are down for Wavebreaker, and that will be actually a delayed wipe for Wavebreaker in the favor of them now, positioning themselves so far up. This is huge for them, as they're in great position, but quickly alleviated and backed out by that Zuka they're finding too.
Yeah, very nice answer by the Sea Cows right there. The first checkpoint was gotten for Wavebreaker. We expected that to happen. Right now, it's the battle for the second checkpoint that matters, and Wavebreaker are already back on the attack, back forward. They have a lot of presence onto that platform, and they're moving forward already halfway through, and they're going to get that checkpoint.
Yeah, 3 down now for Wavebreaker, but still, the constant movement of them will knock it down to 37, and Keeley, like you mentioned, those 2 checkpoints are out and done with. So now Big Fat Sea Cows now have the pressure on them to at least get a checkpoint here or 2 on that push that they want to stay in. And a quick double there will actually knock out 2 members of Big Fat Sea Cows. You see this duel here on the plat between the Junior and the Shot. Won't go either way, but still, Wavebreaker have been able to respond in kind, trying to hold on to this, the splat onto Wyatt here, and the Junior will actually get traded out themselves, but it is a scrum back and forth in mid here for the tower, Pat.
Yeah, right now Wavebreaker are still in control of mid, getting more and more aggressive, trying to find their way forward. They're not able to find much yet, especially since they lose 2 players. This is the opportunity for the Big Fat Sea Cows to get in, but they need to push these 2 players away, almost able to get in. They need to take the tower and go forward, but they already lost 2 players, Rocket.
Yeah, and the third as well, the V-Shot just being the last player standing here. Now Wavebreaker continue to try to apply the pressure almost halfway through the match. Now both splashdowns are available, so things can get really deadly here, but no, one of them is shut down, and now Zuka shot as well. A quick double coming from this V-Shot may be able to shut down that push, and they will. Now Cooler on the backs of Big Fat Sea Cows. This V-Shot is just continuously going in and making a name for themselves here now, continuing to apply the pressure onto Wavebreaker. They are in a position now to continue and try to get this lead back.
Yeah, Wavebreaker are constantly pushing forward, attacking, crashing onto the shores of the Big Fat Sea Cows, and now the Sea Cows are finally on the first checkpoint with a secure position. They should be able to take it. and they need to get the second one. They don't have a position to take the second checkpoint yet, and they lose 3 of their players. That editor will have to go away and let Wavebreaker hold their control. Game 1 and 2 were won by Big Fat Sick Owls, but right now this game looks like Wavebreaker are doing everything right, Rocket.
Yes, I agree, Pat. They are showing some real fight here, and the splashdowns yet again are available for this push. Things can look really, really dangerous for them now. The Zuka being popped as well. All the specials being used for Wavebreaker here to try to maintain this push. The Wiper will go down on the side of Big Fat Sea Cows, but the Zuka there is in great position to hold this now. This is the hard part. A beautiful place bomb will shut down that Zuka, but this is the hard part. The bubble is there to provide a little bit of shielding, but you see that E-Leader lurking up on that tower in great sniping position.
Yeah, it's not stopping, but right now Wavebreaker, not only do they have the tower on the side of the map that they prefer, they still have a good amount of numbers. As I say that they lose 2 players, they're able to win. That splat is key. It allows them to keep the tower there, keep the tower by that checkpoint, and force Big Fat Sick House to still be defending their platform.
Yeah, continuing to defend their platform here. 35 seconds left. Wavebreaker don't have any pressure on them to push. However, if you're Big Fat Sea Cows, if you want to complete the sweep, you need to get onto this point. But so far, they haven't found an opening. As opening can be had with this snap, though. Will find the Nautilus, trying to find some more value here. The splashdown will find one in that 20 seconds are left. The players for Big Fat Sea Cows are falling. It is just left to the E-Leader and the Tri-Slosher to keep things up and try to force overtime. 10 seconds are left here for them to try to do such that, but with the great positioning that Wavebreaker has, it's going to be very challenging.
Yeah, and with that big bubbler and all of his bombs, it's going to be a rough one for the Big Fat Sea Cows. Wavebreaker able to get game number 3. And one thing I'd like to note, Rocket, is that Wavebreaker, they were not running any Wavebreakers. Big Fat Sea Cows were.
Yeah, there's a little bit of irony there. I mean, but hey, it got them that win on that round, on that match there. But yeah, I'm really living up to your name. But oh well, they run it. They know their comp better than I do, so I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have a comp there somewhere that they have a Wavebreaker weapon like a range blaster. But yeah, Big Fat Sea Cows with the win here in round 3. Really impressive for them in those first 2 games to really just set the pace early and never look back.
Yeah. Very nice 2 teams that we have gotten. Wavebreaker showing in that 3rd game that they were able to take control. They were able to learn what the Big Fat Sea Cows was doing. We need to keep an eye on both of these teams, I guess, Rocket.
Yeah, for sure. They still are fighting for a spot in gold bracket here, trying to get these points, but despite that, we will be taking a very, very short break before this last round that we have for us in groups, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back for the conclusion of groups in SAC Season 9 Qualifier number 3. Welcome back to Swiss Groups in SAC Season 9 Qualifier 3. Rocket and Pat are still here with ya, and this will be our last match that we will be looking at, but this will be our round number 4 matchup between Deadlock and Blaeksprutter here, between very, very good teams. I mean, we've seen very limited action between both of them. I mean, Blaeksprutter had participated in the previous 2 qualifiers here, doing fairly well, at least getting some points on the board, but still trying to look for that opening here. But taking a look at Deadlock, they have not participated in a qualifier yet, I believe, Pat.
I don't think that they have, and I wish they did because they have a player named Pat on their team, so I have to root for them. I mean, I know and love Blaeksprutter, they're cool people, but they don't have a player named Pat on their team.
A little bit of bias, would you say, Pat?
Oh yeah, I mean...
Yeah, for sure. But taking a look at these rosters here, Blaeksprutter have Alpha, Fist, Pogriff, and I don't even know what that last name is, but fairly new, at least to me here, between these two teams. Obviously, you mentioned a player on Deadlock named Pat, so maybe a little bit of rooting there, maybe some name appeal, but yeah, for sure. But taking a look at our first map between both these teams, it'll be Splat Zones on Ship-Shaped Cargo.
It's going to be a rude start, because that first fight will decide which team gets to take control of the top of the map, of the part that is above the zone. Once you're there, it is very, very hard to push a team away. So we'll see which team is able to take control first, and whether the other team is able to get a push back onto them. It's a rough one to push on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have the elevation disadvantages on both sides for that. That's overlooking the zone entirely, so it's really dangerous to be playing down there because you have maybe a bucket, a blaster, or just any weapon pretty much just raining down ink from above, and it can really put teams in really difficult spots. But I'm really interested to see what these two teams have in store for us, Pat.
Yeah, it's all a matter of what they bring to the table. I mean, how well have they done so far? Let me look at their stats. Right now, Deadlock, they won one of their sets and taking in total 3 games. On the side of Blaeksprutter, same thing pretty much. They only won a single one of their set, and it was a 2-1 that they won. So both of these teams still have a lot to show. That next victory, one of these teams will be 2-2 in their Swiss, the other team will be 1-3. So I guess that decides the bracket.
Yeah, both of these teams are fighting for a spot to stay in bronze bracket. Maybe if Group B can go a certain way, maybe push their way into silver bracket. But yeah, both these teams, like you mentioned, Pat, are neck and neck. I mean, they're right there in terms of the standings in Group B. So really just either trying to survive to make a bracket to get some points on the board, or maybe pushing their way into a higher bracket to get even more points. This last matchup in our group stage will have a lot riding on it.
And let's see what these teams are bringing right there. On the side of Deadlock, we see a pencil, a machine, very, very classic comp. Blaeksprutter also very classic, but a bit faster with the Rapid Pro Deco. That is kind of a makeshift backline that allows your team to go incredibly fast.
Yeah, for sure here. Having that blaster as the backline is very interesting, and taking a look at Deadlock, running with the sloshing machine, a fairly uncommon weapon, but can be proven valuable if in the right hands. But already off of the bat, it is getting brutal here in mid, as either team have been able to really find an opening, but with the player advantage, Blaeksprutter will be the first team to get there, but not without any resistance, because Deadlock are still trying to contest it with everything they got.
Yep, and right now Blaeksprutter are holding the zone pretty strong, staying in control right there. That 52 gal simply holding the ground. That's the power of the wall right there, a double. And still Blaeksprutter holding the line. It is so rough to push on this map, Rocket.
It is, and now Blaeksprutter with almost half their points now on the board. Now, have an opportunity to continue this lockout, to try to continue to go for the 100-0 knockout, because the pressure that they are applying is so deadly. But you see now, the pencil has cooler available. You see the Booyah Bomb right now being placed to provide an opening. Deadlock needs to jump on the zone fast, though.
Yeah, Deadlock still needs to paint that zone. Blaeksprutter holding as much as they can, but won't be able to stop the penalty from being applied. Now Deadlock needs to clean up that top of the map. Very nice first plat by the machine. That's the power of a good bucket right there. Deadlock able to push, able to get more and more. And Blaeksprutter is finally in difficulty, needing to regroup and prepare a push of their own.
Yeah, Deadlock needs to get a hold of themselves. Good hold, I mean, just of the zone here. I mean, you saw how well Blaeksprutter have been able to lock them out initially. They need to get a similar effect here if they want to stay in, but with one down already, they are being put a little bit on the back foot, as that pencil will get stabbed in the back by a Progrif, and now an opportunity for Blaeksprutter to get back into it, and they will take the zone here. Still half the match left to be played, so still an opportunity for Deadlock to get back control of the zone, but with 3 players down, there needs to be a regrouping of them if they want to get a good retake.
Yeah, very, very nice move by Blaeksprutter. Again, the fact that they don't have a pencil, but instead a Rapid Pro allows them to move so fast as one team, and that's that speed that they had that allowed them to take control over the zone. But now Deadlock, they have 2 specials on. Oh, they already lost the crab tank, and Bazooka didn't. Oh, whoa! I guess Blaeksprutter is holding strong, and they're almost done with their penalty. They could KO right here, right there.
10 ticks left. What can you do, Deadlock? You need to jump onto the point fast. There are the specials going out. The paint on the zone will be just enough to at least contest it a little bit. 2 players are down now. 3 players are down for Blaeksprutter, and the crab will help secure Deadlock's push, but still, they are not dead yet. They still have an opportunity to come back from this, but it is a large lead they have to go through now. Almost out of their penalty, 20 ticks left on it. Deadlock needs to get a really, really good hold on this.
Deadlock needs to not only establish their hold, they need to shut down the next push by Blaeksprutter. They need to make sure that Blaeksprutter cannot get in, cannot get paint onto the zone. And right now, Deadlock has a very good lock onto the map right there. Blaeksprutter using the well, able to get 2 splats already. That's control of the zone. That's not what you want to see if you are Deadlock, who are forced to jump away back to trying to push again. And Blaeksprutter, we know how dominant they are once they are in control of the zone, Rocket.
Yeah, for sure. Cooler is popped. A minute left into the match and almost out of the penalty. Blaeksprutter trying to go for this KO. 20 seconds left on that penalty here, and now Deadlock needs to spring into action. You see them advancing a little bit. You see the Booyah Bomb being thrown out, but the penalty is almost near and dear. There's only 2 ticks left on the actual remaining points. Now, Deadlock needs to jump onto this fast, but the Zuka may be the killing blow, and it is. Blaeksprutter will manage to take game 1.
And that's great control in game 1 for Blaeksprutter. They had better fights, they had better control, they were faster. Deadlock needs to recognize the speed at which Blaeksprutter is moving, and they need to match the speed as fast as they can now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw just how well they were able to defend. You touched on it a lot, Pat, but that's really what all decided that match, just the ability to lock out better. I mean, both teams basically had the same amount of opportunities to hold on to the zone. It's just Blaeksprutter was just a tiny bit better at doing so. Now, we will switch to a different map and mode entirely. It will be Clamblitz Museum. Now, we've seen Museum before, but we've seen also how snowbally it can be, and with a volatile mode such at Clamblitz, it can get really, really dicey real fast, Pat.
Yeah, and the ability that Blaeksprutter has of simply going in, moving around their opponent and get the flank, get in, get a bit more, will be absolutely key here on Clamblitz. Deadlock will need to use their one advantage for this map, which is they have the pencil, they have the extra range, and if the pencil is having a look at the middle of the map, it can dominate it all, it can paint everything, and nobody can really approach it without getting shot. So I feel like Deadlock needed to establish themselves, establish their control, and not let Blaeksprutter simply run forward.
Yeah, I'm expecting this one to be a similar back and forward in terms of how both these teams were able to really have opportunities on both sides, whether they were being pushed back or they were trying to get into a lockout position. Now, this is the mode for that quicker paced action. With it being Clam Blitz, you have such a quick response time between both attacking and defending, and things can change on the dime.
Yep, and here we go. It is time. If Blaeksprutter wins this one, they're pretty much sure to get on to a bracket, and they're not changing their comp. It worked incredibly well in the previous game. They keep at it. Deadlock, they ditch the machine in profit of a custom range blaster.
I like that choice here with the ledges and with the narrower passages to that goal. It could provide some value, plus the Kraken. We see it already providing value, managing to find the Rapid Blast on the other side. Two players are down for Blazer to make that 3, and now Deadlock trying to erase that game 1 result and trying to get this initial push. Now in a great position here with the Zuka being popped as well. We'll find one, but we'll get counteract on that Zuka. The push will get stalled out a little bit here because Blaeksprutter were able to regroup themselves and push back.
Ooh. They push back, but it's not over. There's a custom range blaster right under your platform. Oh, they got splatted before they could use the Kraken. Blaeksprutter still holding the defense pretty strong right there, but they still have to make do with a Super Clam right at their doorstep. Never mind! Nice shots by the 52 guy right there.
Beautiful sharking ability. We'll take the 2-for-1 trade any time of the week, but now Deadlock still have the massive clam advantage here. They have the opportunity to push in. You see 2 balls available to really knock things down to 60 points. Really nice shot there by the pencil. You see the Kraken being used as well to create some space. Only 2 players stand for Blaeksprutter to try to hold this push, and the blasters going in, trying to create the space. The ink wall is up there, and just like that, 60 points left for Deadlock.
And Deadlock are still in the place. They got a wipeout, but they don't... Okay, they have a few more clams to throw at the basket, but they don't have that many clams left. Okay, now they got back. They are able to maintain the basket open. Blaeksprutter respawning though, being able to stop things and get back some control over the basket. But we are 20. We are 12. We're just 4 clams away from victory for Deadlock.
Yeah, Deadlock, continuous pressure. That is what you love to see, especially from a team who wasn't able to keep up that pressure in the previous game. They are showing up. They're showing up here for sure, Pat. We are seeing an entirely different team here. We are seeing them be able to operate well. Now the pressure is on Blaeksprutter here to try to get in a push of their own, especially since it has been half the match so far and has been all Deadlock as of late.
Yeah, and they're back in control of mid. Again, if the pencil is on mid with view of everybody, they get to control everything. And the Blaeksprutter is struggling to push forward, struggling to paint their way in, as there's constantly someone from Deadlock to stop them. We're more than halfway through the game, and Blaeksprutter hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, but an opportunity could present itself. You see the amount of clams comparison between both these teams. Deadlock have 20 compared to Blaeksprutter's 3. You still have the pity clam in the backline for Blaeksprutter, so there's no need to panic yet. You need to develop a little bit of momentum, and momentum they are trying to develop here now towards Deadlock spinner. 3 players are down for Deadlock. This could be the opportunity they need, but the players need to be there. The blaster duel will go in favor of Deadlock here. This custom range blaster has been huge for Deadlock, and now for Kraken available as well to potentially find more value in mid.
Deadlock being able to simply deny more anything from happening on the side of Blaeksprutter was incredible. Very well made defense, incredible coordination, and really that shows how Deadlock changed their team, changed the way they played between game number 1 and game number 2. Right now Blaeksprutter need to prepare another push, and they're already on the platform, but they don't have a super clam at the ready yet, and they're losing clams.
They are. They need to find these specials to really open up the defense that Deadlock has been able to provide here. That is a good start, but being down one player, this Gal needs to go huge, but the Zuka is there for the trade. 3 players are down for Deadlock now, actually. The V-Shot being the only player left there. You see them with the ball, just having to jump out to save the ball. Really smart move, really quick move. Now, 40 seconds left. Blaeksprutter have a large lead to come back with, but it needs to start with at least getting clams.
Yeah, and right now Blaeksprutter, they've had good control over mid for a full minute now, but they're still struggling to hold on to their clans. They have a super clan, but they only have 20 seconds and they lost 2 players. They need to move back now. They can't really lose much more time. And with no super clan, Deadlock is running forward pretty much on a victory lap at this point. They know that they don't need to do anything in order to win the game. Blaeksprutter struggling to go forward, are trying to go in. They have a super clan at least for that final push, but they need to go in and they lost 2 players. Deadlock holding them away. I'm not going to let them in.
Yeah, it is. Time is winding down, and the time and the window for Blaeksprutter to get into it. Game number 2 will go in favor of Deadlock. We saw a completely different game played there, and this is going to make for a very interesting game 3, Pat. Now, both teams have been able to put one up on the board. It is now up to this last match to determine who wins the set, and with a lot on the line, this is going to be a very, very important one for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, Deadlock really upped their game, got more deadly, won more fights, and it showed, it paid off. They had the control over the whole map. Now going on to Mako Mart. A pencil is not as oppressive on Mako than it is on Museum because you have the stacks to hide behind, so many different elevations, so much cover that you can use. That will allow Blaeksprutter to sneak their way onto that pencil and make it pay for overcommitting. It's on Deadlock to remember that they still need to secure their position if they want to go forward, especially on tower control where a single flank can end your push, Rocket.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be worried about it, especially since because of the elevation disadvantages when pushing. I mean, you have to have some players up there to disorientate the defense a little bit to try to find an opening. And something interesting as well, we saw the use of blasters on both sides, the CRB on one side, the Deco, the Rapid Blaster Pro, I believe, Deco on the other side, and that's going to be really interesting to see the interaction between those two, because these are longer range blaster weapons on a mode that you don't have a lot of space to work with in terms of the objective, because you are isolated to one space. So it's going to be very, very intriguing to see how maybe we see the interaction between not only these weapons but their specials as well, because remember, CRB has Kraken.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, you don't have that much space, but the power Blaster can have on this map mode is not to be underestimated. In the right position, that Blaster can deny all the strong positions that you use to defend, to stop the tower. The Blaster can deny these positions, can put a few blasts, but here we go, game 3 of the final round. The team that wins this gets to move to a bracket, gets to make more points here in SAC Qualifier number 3. Let's go!
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at these lineups here. Not a lot changing. Some changes here. They're actually going away from the CRB, just going with the default range blaster. Interesting choice here, but I don't mind it at all. Wavebreaker can be a really, really good special in just trying to get these members of Blaeksprutter out of position. But off the rip already, the Zuka will find 2 on the left there for Deadlock. Now 3 down. Deadlock already setting the pace for this, going and trying to end this with a reverse sweep.
Yeah, it is very, very nice opening for Deadlock right now. Already past the checkpoint and preparing their push. The shot is in the court right there, trying to apply so much pressure. The Zuka is going to find you, and they're still alive! They are still in, and now it is so rough for Blaeksprutter. Deadlock holds the ground and are at checkpoint number 2.
we have seen 1 minute of action. This V-Shot get 2 Zukas and 4 picks from it, and Deadlock are continuing to roll towards the goal. They are at the last checkpoint here now. The Blaeksprutter is just trying to find an opening, but there is no opening. Deadlock with a straight 100-0, not even a minute and a half has passed, and Deadlock punched their way through that set and win 2-1. That was a really, really fast map take by them, Pat.
It's as if Deadlock were sleeping during the first game, letting Blaeksprutter doing whatever they wanted. Then they realized, oh wait, we can use a range blaster, and then we win. Deadlock absolutely taking control of every fight, every spot of the map was in the hands of Deadlock. Absolute dominance in this final game, and a well-deserved 2-1 by Deadlock.
And hey, they have the player named Pat, so there you go. A little bit of advantage there. There you go. Deadlock will take that one 2-1, but not only that, I believe it was Jokeless who was that player on that V-Shot, the captain of this team. Just their Zuka, we saw 4 quick picks initially on that team fight, and then yet again, Healy shutting down Blaeksprutter's holds, and once the ball got rolling, it kept rolling and never stopped until the very end.
Hey Rocket, that's the power of a snowball, especially in tower control. You can never underestimate what can happen next. You need to regroup as a team, coordinate your next special to stop that tower. But yeah, that's the end of the road for Blaeksprutter, and Rocket, I believe that's the end of the road for us as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have a commentator switch here. That will be us. That will be the end for us and the end of groups, but we have some new commentators coming right next for our gold bracket. But before we move on to that, obviously some housekeeping stuff. Pat, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitch at PatJ or Tom. It's written on your screen right there. Yeah. And if you remove the underscores, you can find me on Blue Sky as well. And Rocket, where can I find you?
Yeah, you can find me same spot down here, bottom right, at rocket_splat on Twitter and Twitch. I think I'm gonna get a Blue Sky soon, so you'll probably see me there as well. But thank you all for watching the group stage, but don't go anywhere. We will be having new commentators coming real soon for the gold bracket, so we will be back for SAC qualifier number 3 here shortly.
Mercy, me and more gimmicky. Cold face, got a hot cake master. His the north with the roasters. Take it up, stand beside the snow with a back to back news at the moon. In the side, got a hot collide. I like show me your best like crystal. Twist your head so low, like a king. Mercy, me and more gimmicky. Cold face, got a hot cake master. His the north with the roasters. Take it up, stand beside the snow with a back to back news at the moon. Back to back news at the moon. Morning rays, years and cranes, due to the west,
Welcome back, everybody. We are here for the next phase of SAC Season 9 Qualifier number 3. My name is Shiny Hunter Zach, the man who decided that casting a Splatoon tournament on a Saturday was a better way to spend his day than watching his favorite hockey team lose horribly. And joining me is the man who exudes so much aura that he once cleared out a speed dating event with the pure amount of Riz he was exuding, Mr. Kenneth Bot. K-Bot, what is going on, man?
In reference, I don't even know what you're talking about. What land are you talking about?
Oh, no land in particular. I feel like any land could be
Right.
a situation like that, and just with your aura that you exude, you know.
I'm doing okay though. My sports team, last I checked, was up like 45-0 today.
Oh boy.
My alma mater, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Shout out. That's right. So can't relate on the struggling part, at least today. Instead, I'm just slowly starting to collect myself, and I'm gonna look at Splatoon once again for the first time since probably watching 20XX. So this will be great. No, looking forward to it. It's always a treat to see the up and coming players, right? The folks that have the potential to go even farther along. Not only, of course, at the qualifier stage, also leaning towards the finals, and then potentially beyond, starting to push forward. So also interesting to watch this level, see what kinds of strategies these teams come up with in terms of weapon compositions and things of that sort. So should be a lot of fun as we get into this here, Zach.
Yeah, and we are going to be starting with a seeding-wise relatively close matchup here. The 6 and 7 seeds, kind of a drastic jump as we get into game number 1 here. We have the first and second seeds making it through into gold. Then we jump to 5, 6, and 7 being the next seeds up. And then rounding us out, seeds number 14, 15, and 24, who's taking on that number 1 overall seed at Chocolate Milkshake. But let's take a look here. Going to be starting things out, I believe, on Ship-Shape Cargo Co. New Wave versus Helios, and composition-wise, bringing in some weapons that are somewhat familiar to the metagame. Of course, both teams bringing in NZAP as their tactical weapon of choice, but things like a Z plus F splatter scope also in the mix.
Yeah, Z plus F splatter scope plus the sloshing machine, which is a weapon that you don't see incredibly often, but is something that can provide at least a little bit of extra poke and might be able to pair up with that charger in terms of applying more of a ranged threat. On the other side, though, the sheer presence of having that 10 umbrella plus the vanilla roller as it continues to storm forward. We'll see whether or not those two can team up, but it looks like right now things are working to the favor of Helios as they take the first sizable hold, and even starting to creep up here on this right side. Gonna just jump out and got 2-3 immediately. The big bubbler goes up, and this is gonna be quite the first push here for Helios.
Yeah, that is the equivalent of a skyscraper just falling on top of your head. Just 3 splats in quick succession there, taking themselves to 22, even holding out against a late push there by New Wave, bringing themselves almost into the single digits. They've got 2 down now, trying to secure it with that Inkzuga. They're going to find 1 pick there, and it looks like they're just going to be celebrating a pretty easy game number 1 as Helios takes down New Wave on Ship-Shape Cargo Co. Barely any time even to talk about the teams that we have today. Helios, of course, bringing with them a Brella Master, a Brella main, as they have both experience on the Tenta and Tenta Sorella Brella, surrounding themselves by other team members, including one that's more akin to shooters. You know, they have floops on the NZAP. They can also do things like the 52 and the splatter shot. And then Zur, who is top 100 or is placed top 100 in both zones and TC, playing things kind of across the board, that Rapid Blaster Pro Deco, even rollers like the Flingza and the Tenatech. So lots of intimidating presences. There is, I think this is meant to be sort of a mid-level tournament, but there is still a scary level of talent here, even in top 8.
Yeah, that's what you come to expect, right? When you're getting up to this level, and when you come up to starting to get in this, get in line for getting some of those points towards the end of the circuit here. And yeah, I think, again, right, like you talk about the level of presence that they had on the stage in that last one, being able to push up rather far, and of course, being able to capitalize on some of those plays. We saw that roller player shark up along the right side, caused a catastrophe, right? Really have to make sure that you're getting the paint down, and that's one thing that admittedly is a little bit of a weakness of that new wave composition, at least what we saw in that last one, right? Being able to make sure that you are controlling that area and that territory in front of you directly. Didn't have access to that, and that shark was a big problem. We'll see whether or not they can make adjustments heading into the next game here. Scorch Gorge, maybe a little bit less prone to some of those sharking plays, right? Things for the most part are probably going to be kept in front of you here. But even still, if you're not careful, that roller is going to be pesky, right? Any good roller player is, and certainly no different here. So gonna need to find those adjustments to come out on top here and move on in our single elimination top 8.
Yeah, and I am a simple man, K-Bot. I do love my shapes, and so when I'm looking at map mode compositions like this, I like looking at how ship-shape cargo co much more of a linear map, something a la Manta Maria maybe, but without so much verticality. Still a little bit of high ground you can take, but going to something that's quite a bit more square or rectangular as we move to Scorch Gorge for, I believe, Clam Blitz here. Oppositionally, going to be having a slosher to contend with. Gotten a lot of discourse around it in the last several months as being a very strong weapon. A couple members there running comeback as well. 3 out of the 4 of them running that stealth jump, very common shoe piece there. And on the opposite side of things, going to be sticking pretty much with what they brought last time, the Rapid Blaster, as well as that Penta Camombrella, or Sorella rather, as they have to do a quick 180 there. It's not quite enough. I like to mention those tacticalers being kind of like drawing moths to a flame, with it being such a nice buff to get, but it can be so devastating if the enemy team knows to look for it. That barrier's been broken long ago. They get an extra power clam in there already, and Helios in game 2 already off to the races.
You can see just the pace that Helios is playing with is quite significant here. They're able to make that play happen right off rip. They, adapt to the fact that everyone's got to come towards that tacticaler like moths to the flame. They know exactly where to find them, take them out one by one, and capitalize on the push. Now, though, I'm curious to see where New Wave adapts. The interesting thing here, of course, is that they've got this double strike composition. They're going to have a lot of those, but will they be able to move up on the space that those strikes generate? Here's the second set of those strikes. It pushes back these members of Helios, but actually a member was sharking on the left side. Jumps in, throws in a power clam, and causes chaos on the back lines here. That is not what you like to see from New Wave, and the absolute chaos that Helios is bringing into the map right now is very hard to contest.
Yeah, even the most well-laid plans of mice and men can be foiled by a tactical jump with a power clam when all of those resources and the attention is focused on surrounding that box in mid with the multiple strikes that you were talking about. And it did its job of really painting mid, but it ignored the fact that the objective was being moved quite a bit by Helios there. So up to 28 with just over a power clam's worth of penalty to contend with. They now have, for New Wave, that tactical are back online, and they try that same strategy again of the double strike. So in the meantime, Helios able to grab another power clam, moving back, making sure they're not overextending, which is always important, and even getting a couple of specials out of New Wave. They have that Trizuka not available now, and on the opposite side for Helios, they're going to be buffed as well, and not just the power clam as well, which does go down, so that is going to throw a wrench into things, and they're being backed off not only by the map control, but by that killer whale as well. The Inkjet's something that, I'm not so used to seeing in this meta right now, but it does give you, over somewhat of a flat map like this, a great overview. Is now finally New Wave with this bubbler online is going to get their break on the barricade.
Able to get at least a couple clams in. How many more will they get in, though, as they start moving in? Here's that splash wall. A very slow-moving team right now. Still can't find this last power clam in. Jumping forward, and that's the team wipeout, but it's not enough to take the lead. Of course, still 2 minutes left to go, but you've left the window open for Helios. And what we've seen so far is that Helios is going to be very quick to adjust and try to push straight back in. You already see the level of space they're taking in mid. They are not afraid whatsoever, and I would be less than surprised to see, with that Tenebrella canopy going down, the rest of the team starting to follow forward, especially as some of these specials come online. This big bubbler has the potential to just take over the middle of the map here, and indeed gets thrown up right there, blocks off at least one part of the map, and could allow some members to start escorting in. Now, once again, Pesky coming in the flank side. Meanwhile, the rest of the team demolishes everything right in front of the basket. That's the 3-down situation for New Wave, and this could very well be the knockout if they've got the clams. Just a couple more need to go in for Helios, trying to just stay alive here, right with that 10 umbrella canopy as our roller keeps jumping around. Gets 4! Was that just a complete wipe in 2 flicks?
Oh my gosh, a deja vu moment from game 1 where a roller comes crashing down upon the heads of multiple squids and octolings there, ends what could have allowed for a last-second desperate plea as Helios forces their way into another KO victory, this time in game 2. Clam Blitz on Scorch Gorge. It felt like K-Bot, they had the domination and even some answers to the strategies, some well-laid plans, as I mentioned earlier, from New Wave. It seems like New Wave came in with the right idea for a composition, at least of how to ensure security of the middle aspect of the map, but that does not account for the sneaky ways that Helios was able to get behind them and start those jump-ins. I mentioned the Inkjet earlier. It's something that doesn't pack the power that it once did in terms of the radius of the explosion or the damage fall off there, but it does give you a way to ascend to that high ground. And so the ability there to jump to one of those teammates or to get on top of that high ground while the enemy team is so focused on painting mid allowed for multiple opportunities for Helios to do what was important there, which was to push the objective. And as well as I do that Clam Blitz, it's anybody's guess as to how it can go. You can see really quick pushes. A lot of teams that we saw even in 20XX didn't have pushes until multiple minutes into the game. It really just comes down to creating that sort of fairy tale perfect scenario for you to get in. In that situation, they had that huge Brella to hide behind in the corner, and they survived for just long enough. It had just enough HP on that shield to allow for New Wave to come scrambling in and for the roller to do what that weapon class does best.
And that's one of the things here, right? With the composition that New Wave is running, they don't have a lot of tools to just lay down that paint or slowly build up their control over time. A lot of the main weapons they're running right now want to do that, right? They want to just slowly build up space. They don't want to run in, try to come away with a couple picks. And go all out in some of those team fights. They'd rather slowly, incrementally push their opponents back. On the flip side, though, their special composition doesn't look like that, right? They're trying to run this double ink strike style, which tends to be something that you want to capitalize on very quickly, and they are not currently being super successful in doing that. The opportunities when those strikes come out, there's a fleeting moment where you've got to push forward. They're not finding those moments as well, and Helios, especially with King Jaw here, is capitalizing on those things, disrupting any sense of momentum they could be having, and turning the tide of battle. We'll see whether or not they'll be able to pick up this third game here now as we go into Rainmaker on Undertow.
And to your point, the strategy does shift. Instead of the double strike composition, they do bring instead the splatter scope. So they're going to have the ink back online to be able to absorb some of that ink that was so tough to get rid of. They were able to do it, of course, with the double strikes and forcing now Helios all the way back out, not only holding onto the Rainmaker, but forcing them back to spawn in a lot of respects and allowing the other members of New Wave to jump in, unfortunately, to their demise as multiple different attacks, even from the sky, come out to stop what could have been a strong push, not even getting points on the board. There is a point to which you can be too cautious, and I think we found it here with that push. But for Helios, instantly grabbing the Rainmaker from that position and instantly grabbing the lead, perhaps even taking this Rainmaker to the less used right-hand side pedestal to try and block off that first checkpoint.
You can tell this Helios team has been in scrims. They've been practicing a lot with one another because of just how well they're able to act all together as a unit. Taking out that Rainmaker is one thing, pushing it forward, then even something as small as just, all right, everyone throw a bomb at this Rainmaker shield, we're going to explode it, just to buy themselves a little bit more space. Now, that didn't end up panning out quite the way they might have liked, and now someone from New Wave is going to take that Rainmaker and push back. Although, Inkjet tries to go forward, gets picked off out of the sky, and now we're still seeing this, go back and forth here. in a neutral state in mid. New Wave starts to come on back through, but just how much longer will they be able to do it? Unfortunately, the Rainmaker carrier here is going to lose access to their special. Tactical buff still online here, though, and they're looking to take this checkpoint. They will go ahead for the dunk. I don't know where everyone on Helios was, I suppose, expecting that they were going to take it up the right side. Now, though, out comes the Inkling, gets immediately taken down by a suction bomb, and it looks like Helios is going to retake control in this elbow.
Yeah, and that's a core tenet of your strategy, right? You're doing so well, you're getting to that first checkpoint and you're able to clear it. You feel like you have the momentum, especially with the ink back online, but a stray suction bomb, as it, crazy enough, so often goes off in just the right way to where they're not able to block that off from taking them out. And there goes a big way that you're absorbing potential damage there. So now they do have it back up, but Draconif having to retake the high ground again, which may be a play to try and hinder, as an example, some of the momentum that the Inkjet was able to garner in the first couple of games. And they're doing a good job of recuperating now. 3 down, everyone except for that NZAP falling for Helios. They don't have the tactical, you can see, still in the middle of the map, so any of those buffs likely gone. So a quick respawn potentially coming out for Helios. However, New Wave getting a chance to reclaim mid. Now we have the Trizuka coming out. They're going to sit behind that wall there with the Rainmaker, but they're getting shot from multiple sides. A pincer attack is going to result in the fall of that Rainmaker as the Roller somehow staying alive and has the big bubbler on tap. When and where are they going to use it? They do have the tactical buff online as well for them, and are trying potentially to blaze a path forward here with one of these curling bombs. Cannot quite get into the optimal range there. Minty on that hero shot, doing a great job of staying just far enough back to play outside of the effective range of that Roller. And now the Inkjet coming back out, seeing what they can do. But overall, definitely New Wave's best chance so far at taking a game, and you can see the map control remaining relatively in their favor, even as just now Helios trying another crack at the push.
Here it comes. There's that big bubbler out online. Immediately gets cement with those strikes, and that will be what draws the line for the end of that push. Well done by New Wave once again to try to hold defensively and try to come up with some other kind of strategy here, right? They're able to hold things down a little bit better with the weapons that they picked out this time. Although, that said, they go 3 down here. It's only the Rainmaker alive who's trying to just run away, trying to just keep going, and is going to get down to the 20-point mark. Nobody from Helios was expecting that, because now it's New Wave's turn to start being more slippery.
Yeah, this is exactly where you can be dominating a large majority of the map. And I would say even in game 3 here, it's been much more 50-50, but just a single individual's momentum getting past the stalwart defenses of Helios there gives them a tremendous lead with just seconds to spare on the clock, but they're going to get an important pick there on Geomancy. They will fall, however, I believe, to the shot from the Rainmaker. So now Helios still with a chance to bring it forward. They're going to have to get on top of the pedestal and then pop that Rainmaker shield. So 5 seconds left to go and 2 members down for New Wave. Can they claim it in time? And yes, they do. The Trizuka coming out. It's going to end there for Sorella, just trying to make sure that they don't have enough momentum, but they build up a Tri-Strike. That's going to force the Rainmaker back. They do have a path forward, though. Suction bombs coming out. You can see the timer in the middle of your screen where overtime is. All members still alive here for New Wave. The Rainmaker very concerned about the flank. They're going to get some assistance from a team member, but time is running out. Geomancy trying to make sure nobody can take the high ground. The suction bomb coming out. Are they going to take the horseshoe around? And it looks like they will. The Inkling, though, in the defense coming out from New Wave. Will they have a path forward? They're getting some points. Do they have enough? And they do. That's the lead there for Helios. And not just that, the set hinges on that movement. And though it looked so strong at the end with just 20 seconds for New Wave, Helios comes roaring back in overtime to cement the clean sweep.
What a stalemate there it was at the end, as those two just kept staring at one another. But sometimes inaction isn't the best defense. The New Wave was doing a great job of holding the line, but as they were continuing to throw more resources towards that Rainmaker and towards Helios, they weren't coming away with much of anything. You saw the Slosher come around and flank once, the Zuka came out at some point. All at the same time, the reality of the situation is that each of those independently were able to be neutralized because it was just one threat towards the Rainmaker at once. Whereas Helios, on the other hand, most of the time had multiple different approach angles on some of those fights, was able to take care of threats from multiple different angles, and started to be offensive from multiple different angles. that's typically where you see things working out. So what I would have loved to have seen was to either delay that flank slightly longer and wait for the Zuka to come out at the same time, or throw the strikes and shortly followed up by the Zuka with the flank coming in at the same time. When you coordinate all that together, it's just that much more difficult. But if you're trying to go for the individual hero play there at the very end, it's very unlikely to end up working. It's a team-based game. Working with your teammates is the way to go. New Wave not able to come away with the synergy there at the very end of the game. And Helios showed time and time again that they were ready to work together to be successful.
Yeah, to your point, felt like they threw everything in the kitchen sink there at the end. They had somebody flank around, try and get a pick that way. They had the ink back that felt a little bit far back, although it seemed they were at least far enough to where they would have gotten to around that 25-20 point mark and blocked some of the incoming shots there, but it's just not enough. The patience there just hung around with the Rainmaker carrier for long enough, and the support was there for Helios to allow them to earn a way all the way back. I think it was around 72-20 with 20 seconds left going into that overtime, and they're able to find it. And that shows that Helios really does want to grab some points in this third qualifier. So to demonstrate sort of how the point distribution breaks down, you get 150 points for first place, second gets 130, third going down to 120, and fourth going down to 110. There's many more points to be earned. Fifth through eighth getting 100 as well. And we have some teams in this top 8 that are looking to continue on the rampage that they've been through in these first couple of qualifiers. We have the #1 overall seed Chocolate Milkshake, who 3-0'd as well in their first quarterfinal set against That's What I Would Have Did, 24th overall seed. But Chocolate Milkshake has 2 wins out of 2 qualifiers thus far. They are looking to go 3 for 3 in these season 9 qualifiers. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, the 2 seed, they're also coming through with a sweep. That's who Helios is going to have to contend with next in our semifinals. And on the opposite side of things, the only match that has not yet finished in our quarterfinals is going to be Lunar Eclipse, the 14 seed, who currently has a 2-1 game lead over the Cafeteria there, who is also just trying to get some more points. Looks like they finished 4th in the second qualifier for a total of 110 points. So 4 qualifiers total. This is the 3rd one. Lots of points up for grabs, and even a team that doesn't have much of a showing thus far like Helios can still, in these last couple of tournaments or qualifiers, find a way to make it through.
And if you thought the bracket stage of each of the qualifiers was fun, you'll very much enjoy the finale should you qualify for that very event. Just teams being that much closer in skill level. But Zach, you did bury a little bit of a lead there. One of the teams I do recognize, aside from Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, who wins the Turf War stuff, my Opsidus was a low ink team. I remember Popgun talking about this team on the Popcast not terribly long ago. And here they are in top 8 of qualifier number 3 in the SAC. You too can grind up. The system is there to actually get matches in and continue improving. So I want to shout out that roster as a roster I do or a team name at the very least that I do recognize coming through with this one. So fantastic to see teams put in the work, because that's what they're there for. That's what they're here for, right? You're here because you want to improve, play teams around your own skill level, and actually see where some of those, missteps are going to be in that team format, right? Helios, obviously a team that proved to come together quite well in that last series. Now they go up against Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, a team that's been together for 2 or 3 years at this point, still around a similar level, right? So should be a lot of fun to watch where that series will go. And then, of course, you mentioned the other side of the bracket here, still waiting on Lunar Eclipse and the Cafeteria. The Cafeteria. What are they eating in the Cafeteria? What do you think, Zach?
I was asking you before we went on, actually, what we're eating in your cafeteria, because you were similar to myself, having a bit of a late luncheon, although I've not even ascended to that plane yet of my existence. I'm still sitting with a lowly early breakfast in my system, so you'll have to forgive me if my energy tends to wane at any point. But as you mentioned, I think we are, based on what I'm seeing, going to be continuing on with this sort of storyline here and following to Triggerfish Zone Supremacy taking on Helios for our semifinals match. So a classic 2v7 match. Something that we, is usual to see in the quarterfinals, not as usual to see in a semifinal setting. But this is also a team that, again, Triggerfish Zones, you have mentioned they've been around for so long. The actual members are, folks that you may recognize from the community, folks like Kraken Mare and Porksmork, who have, top 500 placements under their belt and who are no stranger to IPL run events either. Should be very exciting to see.
Stranger to IPL.
Surely.
Who is this guy again?
But yeah, very fun to witness sort of the matchup here. Helios feeling so emphatic in the victory there. Of course, the score sheet doesn't always tell the full story. If you're just looking at a 3-0, you may never have known that game 3 went to such a relatively dramatic overtime. But you can see the rosters on screen there. Of course, we got a firsthand look at Helios already today. Sorella using that Sorella Brella to really put together a nice, consistent defense for the team, and especially in that Clam Scorched Gorge game, used it to great effect in tandem with the Splat Roller that was a mainstay for that roster, backed up by the consistent utility of the NZAP and the Tacticooler that it brings. Rounding it out, of course, you have that Rapid Blaster Pro, which is going to have that kind of funky but also very killer combo of the Torpedo and the Inkjet, which does give you that sort of extra elevation. You want to talk about planes of existence. The Inkjet is going to take you high above where the rest of the peons are going to be sitting down, stuck on the lowly earth. So very exciting to see such a composition go up. I'm excited to see what Triggerfish Zone Supremacy brings. And fittingly enough, Splat Zones K-Bot is where we'll start.
Splat Zones is where we'll start. How shocking, Zach. I couldn't have seen this coming, where Splatoon players would enjoy Splat Zones. Surely not. Mahi Mahi is the pick. Of course, very similar composition coming out of Helios, but they'll have to contend with what Triggerfish Zone Supremacy does, and that's going to center around Kraken Mare on this Ink Brush, which can be pretty pesky, much like some of the play out of our roller on Helios was earlier, King Jaw. But already, 2-down situation here as Triggerfish Zone Supremacy is looking to get the ball rolling, and do what they will in quite considerable fashion. You see Kraken Mare slowly moving up here on this side, trying to just conceal their location and pop out when the time is right.
Yeah, Inkbrush kind of feels like the ultimate gnat or mosquito sort of composition, as we see Helios going 3 down, leaving just the Brella alive. But you have the Killer Whale, which is going to chase you all around the map. You have the Splat Bomb, which has that relatively quick detonation with a large radius. And even with this, Helios is not even able to get in, really, leaving Smork here just kind of playing what little catch-up they need to make on the zone. Now, finally, Helios looking for a chance to get in, but by this point, single digits in terms of points is what they have to get through, but just barely. I think this one zone map small enough to flip the zone with a relatively small amount of ink, and a costly miss is going to result in a trade rather than a clean KO there, but instead Kraken Mare gonna find one onto Sorella. They will go down shortly after, so trades upon trades, which for now is gonna benefit Triggerfish Zones, but they have quite the hefty penalty now to chew through, as we see multiple team members from Helios claiming that buff from the Tacticooler and pushing forward.
Yeah, one thing Helios was able to do there, it didn't even look like they used a lot of specials to get back in after the Inkjet, of course, that kind of moved people around at first. They were able to just get on top of the zone, paint it down, and they're holding it even still now with a very similar strategy, although Inkzuka point blank, not going to do you any favors when it's staring at your face. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, though, only one left up here in the big bubbler. Here comes King Jaw once more, taking care of business, and now Helios, all of a sudden, close to taking away this first game yet again. The roller spots out Kraken Mare, who was trying to be pesky, comes up with Smork again, and then gets behind everyone to cause more chaos as the deluge of pink ink goes on top of the rest of the members, and Helios walks away with game 1 here.
Yeah, stop me if you've heard this one before. The Splat Roller for Helios coming away with a multi-kill in order to change the tide of a match and make sure that they take sneak away a victory here. King Jaw doing a great job. And you can see again, this roster here, not afraid of playing from behind, as it were, or maybe just taking a little bit to find their footing. You know, they had some different weapons to contend with there. We've mentioned the ink brush already. We also have things like the sloshing machine Neo, which could spot folks out, like the spot roller King Jaw there with the point sensor, and then has the range factor as well with the Trizuka. So definitely on a map like Mahi Mahi, especially before that 50-point marker is hit, where you have such fewer portions of the map to actually use, it can be difficult to really make your way through. But I guess when the map has opened itself up and you finally have a little bit more breathing room or flanking ability, Helios able to make the most out of the splat roller and the rest of their composition in order to sneak away with a game 1 victory. So now Clan Blitz remains the mode for game number 2 as we go, K-Bot, over to a staple for the mode in Museum de Alfonsino.
A staple indeed, and I think it's actually a staple because there aren't that many uncontrolled flank angles, right? Which is not exactly you want to hear if you're Krakenmare on the brush, right? You'd rather just be able to run wherever you want to. But instead here, of course, you either have to hop up on the box or go up the ramp at the right side, or sure, you can go across, but there's no way to continue, running around with your brush and then popping out of the ink and just throwing things down. So going to be interesting to see what Kraken's approach to this one is. Meanwhile, of course, Helios still coming out with a very similar composition. They've got all the tools here, but it's going to be more slow moving, which sounds like a counterintuitive after we've watched them play thus far in the series. But theoretically here, they're still coming together with a slower composition, so it might take a little bit for them to build up. But once they get going, it should go pretty strong, just like they just did nearly, and then Krakenmare comes up from behind.
Yeah, for Triggerfish, kind of a two-stage philosophy. They've got such short-range weapons relatively, so in the early game, you really have to be able to get in close in order to be effective. But when you build up the double Zuka composition that this team has, you really can make the most out of a huge amount of range, as we see an unfortunate splat there as King Jaw going down to a stray splat bomb. Kind of the MO of multiple weapons on Triggerfish. You have not only the ink brush, but that Splattershot Junior that can fire them at will. The Junior, especially with that slightly larger ink tank, they're able to survive a deluge both from the Trizuka as well as from that killer whale, and that's going to leave Triggerfish with not much left going on. But this is sort of what I mentioned when I meant that for Clan Blitz, it is not uncommon to see several minutes go by without an early push, but both teams are thinking about it, planning it slowly. A couple of power clams already online for Helios. They're just looking for the right opportunity to strike, and this could potentially be it. They have the Inkjet online, mostly scouting at this point, not going to find anybody currently. Krakenmare going to fall, was maybe hoping to get the jump down from that Inkjet. We're going to see a duel between the shooter and the Brella. Is it going to resolve itself? King Jaw going to enter the fray and be the unlucky individual there, but still, we remain in a neutral state here in mid.
Actually, huge proactive play from Krakenmare and Pepe to follow up after it as coming in off of that splatter shot, right? Krakenmare just looked like they just threw themselves at things and got taken down as a result. But the reality is that allowed Pepe to come in, allowed the follow-up, and meant that there were no power claims online now for Helios. Every single member that was carrying one was taken down in that last play. That opened up the rest of the map for Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, and now they're able to throw one power clam in, not able to get a lot else as they're playing a little bit more reserved for right now with fewer resources online. But what was about to be a mounting push for Helios was now stopped in its tracks. They have to regroup here and start from square zero.
Yeah, it appears there are two wolves inside me. One of them is saying a lead is a lead. And so just by throwing that one power clam in, you do hold on to a lead for however long. But the other one is saying, is that enough? Can you content yourself with just that one power clam and backing off without getting more? So you can commend perhaps the defense that Helios was able to show. And they have now recovered in that term. They have 8, or they had 14, now going down to 8 in terms of clams. Not happy perhaps with how this mid game is going, but they have forced 3 down on the side there of Helios's Triggerfish Zones is really making it happen. They're going to get the break next, looking for anything to come through in order to take the lead. But most of the team back at spawn, and a similar story as they're going to fall to 81 because the first team topping that barricade will retain the lead in case of a tie. So with a minute and a half left, just bloodbaths, ink baths going on in mid. tons happening, but not much related to the objective unless Helios can make something happen with that power clam that we're seeing on the left-hand side of our screen.
Once again, Zach, controlled area across that ramp. Everybody diving on top of it, trying to just find a way in or find a way to hold the line. And at the end of the day, looks like the line was held there. But now 60 seconds remain here before Helios is out of luck with only 2 power clams having gone into basket on either side. And that's it. Both these teams playing incredibly reserved, and they're fighting to put a lot of their resources just to take over mid. You see right now going all the way through the map and then falling to their demise, unfortunately, because they had nowhere else to run. But that Umbrella player going down along with their Zuka means that Helios needs to take a second to reset here again. They don't have their primary pushing tools. And right now, Triggerfish Zone Supremacy is quite content to sit back and throw bombs because they're willing to take the bet that Helios isn't going to come away with all of the resources all at once, though maybe that'll cost them here as the Inkjet comes out.
Yeah, you want to talk about resources. Krakenmare literally using so much ink on that Brella canopy that they had to pop their killer whale in order to rejuvenate it. As we see now, some attempts by a Helios team that's lost 2 of its members to make anything happen, but they just don't have the clams in order to make a last-second push. They have the tactical rebuff. They have the Trizuka out, but what they don't have is the objective gained. And so, as we mentioned, just 1 pop of the barricade each, but the first team to do so hangs on to the lead. And with that, we have a tie set at 1 as Triggerfish Zone Supremacy coming all the way back. There are going to be no heroics in this one, but we'll see what happens perhaps in game number 3 that also K-Bot will guarantee us a game 4 on tower control, Hagglefish Market. Very interested to see how these teams, especially Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, who has been matching up with Helios's, as you called it, more reserved gameplay, playing around that large shield and sort of not really overextending when they don't need to, using the range of their specials, including the Trizuka, to their advantage. How is that going to play on, these next 2 upcoming maps that are more linear in shape and that require some level of hanging around the objective, whether it's moving freely because of a Rainmaker carrier or moving on that set path in terms of tower control?
Well, Zach, the one thing I want to comment on here is don't let the short range of the Triggerfish Zone Supremacy composition fool you, because as we saw in that last one, they're more than content to sit back and throw bombs. I think all 4 of their members have some kind of lethal bomb at their disposal that they can utilize as their effective range. And that's what they've been doing, especially with the Junior, right? It's able to sit back, continue to pump out those splat bombs. You've got your Brush, it's able to do the same. Fizzy bombs from the machine. And then we don't even need to mention the shot, right? So all of these, this is the team that used to have an Explosher player. They're used to this kind of play style, and they're used to throwing a bomb to the other side of Triggerfish Zone. So I imagine we'll see more of those bombs come out. Watch how they're using them and just how they'll be able to continue building up their own space, especially starting to contest towards some of those checkpoints and pedestals on Rainmaker here.
Yeah, even just seeing Mincemeat as a map feels like in the South, we call it sort of a redheaded stepchild in terms of we just really don't see this map coming up all that often in competitive play, but it's something they'll have to use to their advantage here. Is not only do they get splatted, but scouted before that point sensor putting in the work, allowing Helios to go 2 down in Triggerfish zones to have the Rainmaker first. It looks like they're going to have a pretty easy time of it, and they will, getting through that first checkpoint. Different maps have different points that you're getting when you get to that first checkpoint. A couple extra here, 58 instead of maybe the average 60 on other maps, as despite some resistance coming out, including the Inkvac, Triggerfish looked like they were going to get the pop on the Rainmaker. Instead, they back out. Krakenmare trying to see if they could finagle something, but is caught out, whether by chance or by design, by King Jaw here on the splat roller, looking for a couple more with the horizontal and then vertical flick, but is going to have to reset things as Helios takes their first shot at the Rainmaker, makes it to 80, and can make it no further.
Very important that when there is someone who you suspect could be sharking, you cover every darn inch of the floor with your egg. And exactly, King Jaw figured out the reason why. Crackbear got taken down. Now, though, Ink back out here for Helios. They're looking to test this pedestal, and King Jaw forward. There's the wipeout as the Bubbler was able to allow the rest of the team forward. That's an easy checkpoint. Now, how much more can they go here? Because it looks like they're pretty well set up. Krakenmare dives on top of it, and so it's not going to get too terribly far out of hand. The Ink Brush does what it wants to do, which is just dive in and attempt to find the kill. It does, but even still, Helios has got this one down to 48, and it's kind of getting up to around that hold area where they could be comfortable with just sitting back with some of the main weapons that they've got, especially this Rapid Blaster. Although, here comes Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. It's 2 down, and the Rainmaker is heading the other way.
Yeah, this is not a giant map, so it's not far to get through mid and try and make it past. Of course, you're not having to go onto that first checkpoint again, so just trying to find the best path to maneuver forward. Pepe and Mewtwo going to try and find a way forward here, but a flank around from behind is going to take out the Rainmaker carrier, but not, as it were. 3 down for Helios, and they're going to get a couple of quick squid surges to get both the lead and some extra points. They're up to 23 as Helios now on the back foot. Still plenty of time left to go, and even more points. Krakenmare, they go on the shortest but most effective heroes journeys of all time twice in this map so far. They've both stopped the Rainmaker and pushed the Rainmaker the furthest in this game as of yet. Lots of time left on the clock, but they've really been heroic in this one.
Both of them very intentional, right? I talked earlier about maybe you don't want to go in individually, but one of the weapons that you do want to go in individually is this Ink Brush, especially because of its effectiveness at the close range. If it slips past the opponent's defenses, it can cause a little bit of trouble, as Helios is quickly figuring out. Although now Big Bubbler goes up. Here comes Rainmaker going up the side. King Jaw going to take care of it on the crates before getting taken down themselves. And here comes the Ink back here as well. Immediately goes down, trying to just take care of this jumper. Smork going to get taken down, and now potentially an opportunity again here for Helios, but they've just burned most of their specials. Rapid goes down here as well. They've got to think for a second before they start pushing.
That's one thing I've liked about watching Helios' gameplay, though, is that Smork, they're playing a very unwieldy weapon, and it's a weapon that needs a lot of support. And that Splat sort of on the high ground there was a great example of it, where not only are they trying to use their entire kit to make things happen, they have the canopy out, but they also have the support, for example, from the torpedo and from other weapons as well following behind them to ensure they can get that pick with their sort of shotgun style weapon. But now under a minute left to go. Said Umbrella is going to have their special online, as is the Big Bubbler for King Jaw, but can they use it in an effective range? Triggerfish now mainly scouting out with this Sloshing Machine Neo, seeing if they can spot where Helios is trying to come around. They have the beacons in place to see if they can get a late game push going. Gets one hit marker there, but it's not going to be enough. And just the rapid fire action from Krakenmare on that Ink Brush. It feels like, even again, as you mentioned, not underestimating the short range. They've done so much here. However, getting spotted out by a torpedo, and they're not going to be fast enough on their feet to get away. 17 seconds left to go on the Rainmaker, sitting here in the middle of the map. Helios waiting for the right opportunity to pick it up, as they know this push, which they've just now started, may very well be their last, and they do lose it. Can they pick it up in time?
Doesn't appear to be the case. Krakenmare in position here, and if not, they've got one member sitting back. Kraken will dive in and get the job done there. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy able to hold on, and again, what was a decent chunk of that towards the very end there? The bombs coming in and the pressure that those allowed meant that Helios couldn't find a way forward through that rather closed off choke point there, as they're trying to come around the bend right after that checkpoint pedestal. So that allows enough time for Krakenmare to adjust their position. You've got, the other members here, Mewtwo, Pepe, all of them able to come in, adjust their positions to get to a better scenario here and hold the line as they do. And there's just not that level of explosiveness coming out of Helios in this game with this composition and with the amount of things that are getting thrown at them all at the same time, right? They're not able to come up with a lot of sharking plays out of King Jaw, because guess what? Triggerfish Zone Supremacy as a more experienced team and someone who wants to shark themselves knows how to take care and try to eliminate that threat when they can. So now Go to Tower Control Hagglefish Market, which can be interesting here because it is a little bit more open. This could cause for a few more unique flank opportunities, which both these teams have liked to go for. But right now, Triggerfish Zone Supremacy has a decent chunk of the control out of the match. They're able to sit back and throw bombs when they want to. They're able to aggress incredibly quickly around some of their shorter range weapons. And we have a composition change trying to come out and find an answer here for Helios. It's the custom ranged blaster paired with this tent umbrella Zermatt. Picking this one up with the Kraken. We'll see whether or not this pans out, but having a little bit of extra range potentially could be consequential. It's just a matter of being able to find the actual picks.
Yeah, this really feels like hyper offense to me. I mean, you have to rely so heavily on your NZAP for painting because your other weapons really just can't handle it. They just don't have the kits and able to really proceed forward. And Triggerfish in the first 30 seconds of this one has really capitalized on that. If Helios is not winning the offensive battles, which is in theory the specialty of at least 3 of their weapons, then they have a major disadvantage going on. And to your point earlier, it feels like more than anything, Helios has been just weathering the storm. They've been just barely hanging on, getting hit from all directions by indirect splats or from the different bombs that are coming through, just taking chip damage over and over again. So they can't shark. They can't really set up in optimal situations. They are facing a sloshing machine Neo who loves just sitting back and throwing point sensors so that they can spot out where the enemy team is sitting. Lots of shielding going on as well. Sorella going down as we see that Kraken Royale barreling through and getting a splat there. Can they find anything on the top half? They are caught out by the aforementioned point sensors. Helios is going to be making their first push of the day. Can they get through that first checkpoint? They are going to lose King Jaw in the process, but they will, thanks mainly to that big bubbler, be successful as Triggerfish setting up free. Obviously on that top right hand side, it may be obvious, but what are you going to do about it if you can't really take them off of that high ground? So despite that, Helios hanging on. They dodged the shot there from the Trizuka, and they don't have to contend with that first checkpoint anymore. So a chance in a basically 2v1 situation to try and take the lead.
And now it looks like Pepe tries to hop on the tower, but gets taken down. And Helios is going to try to keep up the momentum here. King Jaw's turn on top of the tower, and we'll clear past that second checkpoint. This one's getting dangerously close to the end here as suddenly Helios comes up with a decent amount of area control. The Kraken comes out of King Jaw. It's going to get pushed off the tower pretty quickly. But even still, you don't want to be messing around with the Kraken at this stage of the game. No, it doesn't come up with anything. Gets taken down. And Helios back down to the 3-down situation. They've worn off half the total game time, though. It's halftime, and Triggerfish Zones is the one on the back foot here.
Yeah, both teams getting, past 50% or 50-point pushes in the early part of this game. And really unfortunate for Helios that they were not able to keep the Kraken Royale. That is sort of your, in theory, win condition button for at least that portion of the push by having an invulnerability teammate, but it can be moved by shots that are consistent enough. So it may be invulnerable, but it can still be forced off of that admittedly not very large objective area that is the tower's platform. So now we're back in the mid game here. Triggerfish trying to find something with that Trizuka, not really getting much out of it, and they lose all but their Splattershot Jr., who may opt to stay back to try and hang on to their special here. They are going to stay alive, at least for the moment here. The NZAP desperately not only trying to build up that tactical, but scouting for where that Junior may have gone, as we see a trade between King Jaw and the Splattershot. Now we see more pushes coming out as the tactical is going to be thrown there for Helios. Looking for shots is the sloshing machine Neo. They're just going to find Canopy and nothing else. They will at least escape with their lives for the moment, but still for Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, just that Junior's ult online, that special. So what are they going to be able to do out of this? Helios with a pretty dramatic lead. Kraken are going to find one there onto Zermatt, trying to stay alive, but Fluke's going to pop in and pop out just quickly enough. And K-Bot coming back to the mid game here. It looks like it could be either team's game to win.
Certainly could, but Triggerfish Zone Supremacy is having difficulty finding some momentum here. A lot of what Helios is doing is mitigating any sort of what potentially Triggerfish Zone Supremacy could be doing. They start throwing a couple specials out here. The Killer Whale. Here in comes Mewtwo with that sloshing machine. And all of a sudden, now it's a 3-down situation for Helios. Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. Opportunity to move forward. 37 seconds left on the clock here. And also, this Zuka is online. We'll see where it gets thrown, but actually takes care of Sorella. There's Zermatt getting taken down as well. So it's a 2-down situation. It has Scramble on top of the tower, but even still, most of the area is in blue ink. Here comes that Kraken coming out of Zermatt. Looks to try to get taken care of business on top of the tower, but no, it goes right back down to that third checkpoint. Everyone is sitting on top of the tower, and it's Helios that comes away with it at the very end. It looks like it's smooth sailing from here as Smork tries to make an adjustment. Actually, just ignores Sorella altogether. Almost gets on the tower, but no, is denied there. The rush at the end is not enough, and Helios is sending us to a game 5.
And again, we saw another attempt at a hero play from Kraken Mare, unabashedly facing that Kraken Royale with the quick flings from their ink brush, but just not able to stem the tide of what was happening atop that tower right before Triggerfish Zone Supremacy was going to get the lead there. So just barely stopped in their tracks by a Helios team that is no stranger to either last second pushes nor defense of the objective. And so we rotate all the way back to the mode where Helios was able to sneak a win out from under Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. We go now to Crab Leg Capital for the final leg of this set, and Splat Zones is the mode, the only one that we will be playing twice here, and again, could go either way. We've seen, I think, the more consistent play come through from Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, and that game 4 was no exception. They had some great moments, especially in either the alleyways or right in front of the walls of the ramps behind sort of the middle of the map, where they were able to get some cheeky splats. They had some killer whales coming out that were displacing some members there of Helios. They're going to have to rely on that sort of displacement from the middle of the objective here if they want to succeed for Splat Zones on Crab Lake Capital. For Helios, on the opposite side of things, they are making sort of team-wide hero plays, whereas we're seeing more so that individual play style combine for Triggerfish Zones. And I'm talking about the sort of layering of bombs that was going on, the layering of Zukas that was happening quite frequently. And for Helios, they're going to need to rely on things like, will they have the big bubbler again from King Jaw? Will they have their own Tryzuka to contend with? Either way, game 5 to decide it all, back to Splat Zones between Helios and Triggerfish Zones.
CRB comes out once again out of Zermatt, and that could be something that makes the difference here, because with Crab Leg, you've got a lot of these grades that you can keep poking around, and I think Helios's plan is to try to play for some of those grades, especially with that Tenebrella, and now the addition of this CRB, that'll be what they try to control, but they still have to also focus on the paint control that they do have. That NZAP is going to be pumping out overtime, as you mentioned, Zach, because of just how much of these members of Triggerfish Zone Supremacy are going to be wanting to run around. It looks like TZS is going to be the first ones on top of this zone, and they're going to get at least the first little hold here, but how long they'll extend this for could potentially dictate the course of the pace of the rest of the game.
And this map feels so angular, right? We were watching Mewtwo in the beginning of that, and it felt like they were taking sort of those right peaking angles and waiting for the right time to jump from sort of that small box and into the fray. And that's where basically every weapon on Triggerfish Zone Supremacy excels, is finding the right opportunity to engage. And maybe that's, you know, figuring out where the enemy team is located, as we just saw King Jaw do for Helios, but also if they're getting enough damage with either those bombs or getting within range in order to be successful there. But now Helios back into things. They're able to even get their teammate Floops that is coming back from spawn right back into mid. They're not even committing the big bubbler as of yet. Triggerfish taking things one step at a time, though, not trying to overextend. Knows that any overextension with no penalty to go through could mean disaster if they're not able to beat out Helios here. But they have built up the Tryzuka. They are going to use the high ground sort of near those grates, and they do have enough to get Zermatt. Looking for another one. They're not quite going to find it and mark someone instead. They will force them to the back of the zone, but not quite to their demise. They get another indirect, but it's not going to be enough. And another member of Triggerfish comes in to help secure the wipeout as Helios with the lead in tow, may have just enough of a defense at the front of the zone to stop Triggerfish from coming back.
Potential to pull off quite the upset here, and as a matter of fact, again, their weapons love just being able to hold on to things. Taking care of Smork, coming in the flank angles here as the NZAP playing back, and then the wipeout comes through as Zermatt pops the Kraken. Helios comes away with the victory despite how dominant some of those games looked for Triggerfish Zone Supremacy at some times. They're the ones that come away with more of these games and looking to be quite a large threat here with their weapons. They feel pretty comfortable and confident on the weapons that they are playing, and they look good, and they can come away with the game plan once they situate themselves. Very much, again, what this slower composition is, right? Especially CRB, Tentembrella, as we keep mentioning. This is a composition that once they hold a specific area of the map, it is going to be very hard to dislodge them. They show it there on Crab Leg, get the job done.
And for Triggerfish Zone Supremacy, you know, if I'm reading the points sheet right, their best showing of any qualifier, right? They guarantee themselves at worst fourth, which is at minimum 110 points, coming off of back-to-back 100 performances, which is going to be 5th through 8th. They make it out of the quarterfinals here. Granted, higher expectations, I think, in this tournament, having that second seed on their shoulders. They take down a Myopsidus team that you had a lot of great things to say about their K-Bot, and then going into a hotly contested and very back and forth best of 5 set here in the semis that I thought they looked great in basically the entire way through. But after losing that zone, not really able to find the footing once again there on Crab Leg. So maybe a best of 7 could have gone their way, but performing very strongly against Helios in one of the better sets that I think took place in this tournament overall. And on the opposite side of the semifinals, which had long since concluded, the #1 overall seed and back-to-back qualifier winner has held on to yet another sweep victory in terms of gunning for that first place finish once again. So it will be Chocolate Milkshake, the #1 seed, taking on Helios, a team that we, K-Bot, have followed through both of their gold bracket stage matches. And in the 3rd place match, Lunar Eclipse, who outperformed the expectations there, coming in seeded 14th, will make it through after an upset victory over the Cafeteria in round 1, and then unfortunately facing that first seeded Chocolate Milkshake. They'll take on a team in Triggerfish Zone Supremacy who is looking to prove themselves as well as pick up that extra 10 points that 3rd place would provide over 4th.
Certainly a lot on the line here, riding on the next couple of matches. You want to come away with the largest amount of points that you can out of these qualifier events, with the hopes that you're setting yourselves up for the very end and the invitational that lies in wait. But before we get into the next one, we're going to step away for a real brief break. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's Chocolate Milkshake versus Helios on the other side of this break.
And welcome back, everybody. We are here once again for the conclusion of SAC Season 9 Qualifier number 3. Again, my name is Shiny Hunter Zach, joined by K-Bot, and this has been a very fun tournament to watch. Of course, we are in the depths of this qualifier series, if you will, 3rd out of 4 total qualifiers, and we have a banger of a matchup coming up soon. In the finals, it will be Chocolate Milkshake versus Helios, which I'm told these two teams played each other in groups in a best of 3, and it did go to 3. So for a team like Chocolate Milkshake, K-Bot, so familiar with sweeping through the competition, maybe we'll start to meet their match in Helios.
We'll see. And, you know, the interesting thing here, right, for this Helios roster is this is a team that theoretically isn't supposed to be here, right? They were probably underrated, undervalued at this point, and now proving that they're supposed to be here, taking a game earlier today against this team probably gives them some confidence as well heading into this one. But Zach, remember, this is still only a best of 5. The set's going to go by really quick. And so if you're going to make any adjustments, you've got to make sure you're doing them before it's too late. And we'll see whether or not they're able to do that. I'd also love to see if these teams start finding mid-game adjustments to make around each other's play styles, whether or not they'll be able to do it, although they have to have some expectation of what they're walking into here, given by the fact that they've played each other earlier today.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if we have a roller v roller matchup on our hands, as we have King Jaw versus potentially Ivy, who, though I haven't seen any of their matches yet today, does have multiple rollers 5-starred on their Sendo.Inc profile. So that would be a great duel if that comes true. Going to be starting out once again with Splat Zones, this time on Umami Ruins. So not a one-zone map, it's just going to be the 2 sort of rectangular zones on either side of sort of that raised platform, but it is also not a giant map. You have sort of this large enough spawn area that you don't really want to be stuck in unless you have something like an Explosher or a Charger that's going to like to make use of that sort of cylindrical overlook. But for the most part, you're going to want to be hanging either behind the areas where those zones are, in front of them if you have the momentum, or on top of that raised pedestal, trying to make it rain down on whichever zone needs it most. So looking at Chocolate Milk's composition, the aforementioned Ivy, who could be bringing in either a roller or a shorter range shooter. Then we have Toby, who could have things like the Nautilus 47 under their belt, the Splatter Shot, the 52, Slosher, all things that are quite popular in the meta, I would say, at least with those last 3. And then we have folks like Cap and Sunny rounding it out. Sunny, ideally, or in theory, going to be either your pencil player or that aforementioned Charger player. So that is going to give you an element of range. It's going to give you an element of high ground importance, or somebody that, if you capture both of those zones, could sit in the middle and make sure it's that much more difficult to be coming back from your own spawn. So lots for Helios to contend with, as we see sort of their scrappy roster, which has maintained its shape throughout these matches that we've gotten to see. That Rapid Blaster Pro of note, throwing the torpedoes around, acting in a similar way that that point sensor did. But here we go with the finals of the gold bracket in qualifier number 3, Splat Zones on Umami Ruins between Chocolate Milkshake and Helios.
The one thing I am going to watch out for in Chocolate Milkshake's composition is, you mentioned there is the roller coming out here of Ivy, but this is a composition that looks like it wants to play much faster than Helios with the Tenebrella Blaster idea, right, supporting the roller. Instead, this is going to be one that is going to be very in your face, very aggressive all at once, and we'll see whether or not Helios is going to be able to handle it, especially if Chocolate Milkshake is able to send multiple members forward all at the same time, as it looks like they're doing as incredibly well here. And Ivy, nice fall off here, able to find a second and enable the rest of the team forward. Chocolate Milkshake will take hold of these zones first.
Yeah, not just hitting shots with the roller, but hitting fadeaways. That sort of vertical flake, just able to do enough damage to take down that member of Helios, who is definitely on the back foot here. The nice thing for them about 2-zone maps, and not so nice about the range that they were in with that pencil, that the Inkjet's going to go down. But the 2-zone map does allow for some contesting to happen more often. The trickier thing is you have to get both zones in order to force a penalty onto your opponent. So you can be a nuisance but it still makes it more difficult in order to claim both zones at the same time. Meanwhile, Chocolate Milkshake gonna claim their zones back. They didn't have much of a penalty to get through, only a couple of points picked up there by Helios, and they hung on all that time to this price strike, which is now going to come out. It's going to miss, importantly, the landing member of Helios that was coming down with that inkjet, trying to maneuver all the way forward with that roller, but Closure spotted them out quite quickly. I think, again, that's going to be Sunny on that pencil there, and down into the 20s is Chocolate Milkshake.
Helios has to find a way to do it quickly, despite the fact that that's not what their wheelhouse is. Their forte is not finding a quick and easy play and in it to the zone. It's slowly starting to build things up, and at this point, I'm afraid they might not have the time, as Chocolate Milkshake will hold them nearly in their own spawn, prevent them from touching even one of the zones for the full time, and that's a 100-0 knockout already for Chocolate Milkshake. Again, this team that wanted to play a little bit quicker, a team that took control of the zones first, and the other side just can't quite get the full setup going all at once. You know, it's a composition that can work, certainly, but again, takes a little bit more to get fully rolling and fully operational. I think that was the main detriment to their play in the last one. Couldn't get all the pieces going to take back control of the zones, and so that one's very quickly going to go over to Chocolate Milkshake. But, of course, in a chance where a Clan Blitz game goes on a little bit longer, maybe there's an opportunity for the next few to be more back and forth.
And in looking at the record of Chocolate Milkshake's individual games in this tournament, they uphold their record of not having dropped a Splat Zones game throughout this third qualifier. The same also said for Clan Blitz. They have not dropped a Clan Blitz game as of yet, which is what we're going to next. So if that maintains its shape, then Helios is really going to be on their back legs here going into the two modes that have forced Chocolate Milkshake to drop a game. One in Rainmaker, that was against Paradigm Starfish, and one against Helios in this tower control mode. So if they want to win this set, Helios is going to have to knock down Chocolate Milkshake on a mode that they have not yet lost on in this tournament, be that Clan Blitz or Splat Zones if it makes it to a game 5. So they'll have to take their pick. Clan Blitz on Scorch Gorge is what we're returning to. And we've seen Helios' strategy on this map and mode specifically. They like to sort of not really even play around the middle of the map if they don't need to, or in the case of our last match that we saw, if they're being barraged by a total of 6 different ink strikes, they prefer to just get on top of that high ground and move their way on through to the barricade. Does Chocolate Milkshake have an answer for that? Only one way to find out. Let's see if Helios can pick it back up in game number 2.
I'm curious to see what weapon the blaster is going to be. It is the CRB. There's the switch that we might have been thinking about here for Helios. And potential here, I suppose, for the Kraken to maybe be slightly more impactful, I think, than the Inkjet. Obviously, you know, we've talked back and forth about the Inkjet, and it's got potential here on this map, but the Kraken's going to be more consistent in terms of the level of space that it's able to provide to the team, and that could be all the difference for getting your Tent Umbrella into a better position. So we'll see whether or not that comes out as they start trying to go forward here, but it's a wipeout, and it does look like here it is going to be Helios striking first. They got the ball rolling. They're pushing Chocolate Milkshake back, and now they've already got this down to 57 here early.
Yeah, strike first and strike hard. This is not the match that we saw on Museum that was an 81-80 score. They are down already to 48, and they're still cooking another power clam, and they're going to go down as a result, but that is more than worth it in order to get into 25. They even got an extra clam in, effectively a 1v1 now, as members are still coming through. Floops, unfortunately, waiting not only in an enemy big bubbler, but multiple members of Chocolate Milkshake waiting for them to fall. But this push still continued all the way to 16. So that has to be a bit of a confidence booster if you're Helios, saying we took a map off of this team before, and we certainly have the prowess to do so here.
And they're even looking to just keep holding on to mid and might continue striking again as they move up the left side over the grates. And here comes the Kraken going right underneath the basket again. Obviously, if they jump in, they have to jump back to that first part, but it doesn't matter because it allowed for the rest of the team to be escorted in once more. And Chocolate Milkshake is still on their heels on the side here. Here comes Azuka yet again. Pops trying to find a little bit more presence, but looks like wasn't able to do much. And now the strikes from Chocolate Milkshake are going to try to come in to clear out this big bubbler and the rest of the players. But King Jaw throws in a couple. 2 clams, or 2 points, I should say, was all that was left between the game win. But no, denied there. And now Chocolate Milkshake finds the wipeout, and they're trying to find presence on the other side of the map.
I'll harken us back once again to that Museum de Alfonsino game. They were down to 1 in that match, and it looked like it was going to close up, but they were able to find the clam in that case. Not so here, as 1 and now close to 2 if they can pick it back up. I was going to say 2 power claims are going to go in, but it's just the Splash-O-Matic left, and they don't have the time, the positioning, or the wherewithal to pick that second power clam back up. So what could have been a start to a comeback from Chocolate Milkshake is much less effective, as they just get the 1 break on the barricade. Not down to 60, but just to 80. And Helios not resting on their laurels at all. They know they need more than just the 1 power claim, which is going to hit the barricade now. And the second one comes through before that tri-strike can even hit the ground. Helios comes roaring back here on Scorch Gorge, ties this setup at 1, and is the first team today to knock out Chocolate Milkshake on Clam Blitz.
How about that one? There's a statement game in response to the first in the set, but this team looks so good on this map mode combination. I think the reason is because they're coming at this from a slightly different perspective. You don't see a lot of teams focus resources over those grates coming up behind the tree. You see most teams trying to just focus and shove everything towards that elbow choke point right in front of the basket, because that's really the area that you want to control. But Helios has been sending a lot more resources over to that side, and when they do, they're able to distract enough and enable whoever wants to come in on that other side of the choke point to easily pass through and find enough clams there. And then, of course, at the very end, you get the 10 umbrella set up and things are all well and good. But the other thing, too, about Scorch Gorge, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty easy to get to a different spot on the map pretty quick. In this one, though, it's a little less easy to do that. So I'm curious to see how Helios is going to adapt here, especially Sorella with the Tentambrella on Inkblot tower control.
Yeah, we have the Tenatech as well coming out from Titan. That's going to give them the tri-strike still as well. This list of map and modes almost feels like a bell curve in terms of its notoriety or frequency in higher level tournaments, and this seems like maybe the most common map mode combination that we see. So it should be one, as we see a 3-down situation go against Chocolate Milkshake here, that is known and played all too commonly. Some sharking around happening from the Umbrella, waiting to see if somebody's going to drop down. They will not, but the Umbrella here will hang on to that Trizuka to see if they can maybe pick off either of these players. The roller is going to go down, but they're waiting to see if they can get the pencil. They're getting to the second checkpoint as well, as Helios gets past the halfway mark. They do lose a couple of their members, but the jump-ins are starting to come through. The big bubbler also out from the Brella as the tri-strike does happen, but they're not able to claim anybody. And even this member that dodged around lived for a little bit longer maybe than expected. Up to 33 is the tower, and an emphatic first minute here for Helios.
Once again, Helios gets set up. It means good things for them. It might take a little while for the ball to get rolling, but once it does, it'll keep going down that hill. Helios knows that and is able to play around that incredibly well. And now, look at this, is even going yet again on forward, because Chocolate Milkshake is still trying to play more defensively. Sorella going to get taken down on top. That's actually a huge pick to make sure that this one doesn't get too terribly far out of hand. The bubbler goes out here as well as Chocolate Milkshake looks to regain some ground. They will both drop, take out one, take out a second, and now are looking for the third. Well done on the engagement there to pick the target they're going to all shoot at. But now they don't have a lot of resources on this offensive, and they're not taking space as quickly as I would expect them to with their composition. We'll see whether or not they're able to do that here, as Ivy's going to get traded down, and we're back in the neutral game.
Yeah, Helios, if you're taking maybe 15 seconds off of that initial sort of coming from spawn and initial engagement time, about a minute and a half eaten off the clock, not just getting to 27, but also, you know, cementing a very strong lead and killing lots of time here. And now starting to come back and riding this tower without even focusing too heavily on what's being painted here in mid. Putting pressure, rightly so, on the pencil here. And that's been something that's been able to contend, as we see just happened to King Jaw with the composition that Helios has brought. As mentioned earlier, a lot of their weapons are very offensive, but the pencil is going to outrange them. If this is a weapon that traditionally you want to use to build up your pencil, but it does have that substantial range to it. So if they can use that to get a pick or two, that's going to allow them to push forward, as it is now here with just over 2 minutes left. The first push of the day coming out for Chocolate Milkshake.
First push, we'll see what else can happen here, but once again, not taking up a lot of space. Now the Kraken comes out here. Zephyr gonna get taken down, and Chocolate Milkshake doesn't have a lot to keep rolling once again. Already, Helios is on top of the tower, and now King Jaw right underneath it, just able to be that much more annoying. Ivy actually going to opt to jump on away, looking to jump actually to a different teammate, trying to cause a little bit of a play there, but was unsuccessful in doing so, and so Helios is now going to be back escorting this tower into neutral, and there's 80 seconds left here. They could be looking to take this one as well, but actually have to be careful. One member comes down. Quick adaptation allows for that member to get traded, but overall, it was a 2 or 3 down for Helios here, and that means Chocolate Milkshake might have the opportunity, but again, they have to pick up the pace.
Yeah, we rolled with the idea of deja vu earlier. It feels like we're seeing so many of these engagements for Helios go poorly because they're missing their initial shot, and they're playing weapons that really get punished when they're not able to take advantage of either the one-shot splat potential or the element of surprise. And so Chocolate Milkshake capitalizing on both positioning, as we see a great wipeout there. Helios coming roaring back thanks to King Jaw's efforts once again, but it is a feast or famine type of composition. You're either having insane plays like that where one player is able to get 2 or 3 by themselves, or you're whiffing on all of your shots, and it gives Chocolate Milkshake in this case the advantage. Thankfully for Helios, they're coming back quickly enough where it's not mattering too much, or in that case, getting support from their teammates. Just over 10 seconds left to go. Helios, their order is just keeping Chocolate Milkshake away from the tower.
And look at how much blue ink is all over the map right now, Zach. With 4 seconds left to go, I don't even know if Chocolate Milkshake has the opportunity to get on the tower. No, they do not, although how close they were. The Kraken was there, of course, to continue mitigating that pressure, but it was too little too late. And I think that was one of the risks actually out of the Chocolate Milkshake composition in the way that they switched things up there, is they had no real engaging tools, right? When you think of how that might end up working, I'm thinking, right, what special button can you pop to turn the tide of whatever's going on right now? Not a lot of that actually coming out. Your strikes can escort a roller in. The roller can put a big bubbler. Okay, sure, that buys you a little bit of space, but you don't have something that can very quickly change how the game is played on a dime, like a Zuka can, like a Kraken can, like something else could. And I think Chocolate Milkshake struggled to find the picks at a long range to try to get the momentum going for them at all. They just couldn't find that at any point during the last one. And always it was somebody getting right up close to them, able to take down whatever it was they were trying to do. And so while it was true that they had potential to play faster, they weren't able to find any engagements to actually take and actually try to once again dislodge Helios, a composition that we've said time and time again is going to be difficult to do that to. So I've been a fan of strikes for the longest time. I don't think that's the play right now. If you're Chocolate Milkshake, I'd rather see the vanilla shot with the Zuka. Try to find a couple more picks where you can to open up the map for you. And Rainmaker Humpback might be a good time to do that here. Well, it is a good time because now they're down and they're at potential here to lose the tournament as their opponents are on a tournament point.
And just going purely off statistics here, that brings Chocolate Milkshake down to a 2-2 record in this tournament on tower control. Both of those losses being handed to them by Helios, once, of course, in these finals and once in the group stage. The second best mode, and as you mentioned, time to win this game for Helios is on Rainmaker. I fear that if they let this one go to Splat Zones, they are going to be swapping over to potentially Chocolate Milkshake's best mode. So it may come down to the result here of Humpback Pump Track and some changes coming out. The most notable one being closure now on the heavy edit, bringing some special charge to the equation to ensure that they can get this tactical or online quickly. And of course, we still have that roller v roller matchup, which is going to play such an interesting piece as we have this moat style map where there's so much room for flanking around and getting behind your opponents.
This is the other thing, though. It's if you're going to stick with the strikes, make sure your roller can capitalize on wherever you're throwing the strikes. If those two are synced up, good things will happen for Chocolate Milkshake, as they almost just did. But they go down 3 here, and it's Helios' turn to try to make a play towards a Rainmaker. But no, now one gets taken down to a bomb, and it looks like this Rainmaker is going to stall out here.
Looking to perhaps use these tri-strikes as early on as they can. They get them all out. Not going to find, of course, a splat with them, but often the intention is not purely offensive. It is more so to try and claim that ground and dissuade your opponent from going in that direction. But Helios firmly planted atop this raised middle hill rather maybe than mountain as they pick up the Rainmaker here, and they have the buff from the Tactical as well. They're going to pretty easily get to this checkpoint, maybe one of the easier checkpoints to claim in all of Splatoon 3, but that is not where the battle is going to end. As you see, not only the tri-strike, but also the bombs come through. It is the canopy yet again that saved them for as long as it did, but a great defense there, backing Helios quite literally into a corner to take them 3 down, and that is going to reset the Rainmaker back into mid and give Chocolate Milkshake a chance here to make another push of their own.
Waiting on Titan strikes. It has them at the ready now, as does their Slosher player Zephyr here. Where will they end up going? All in front of the trench. It traps one member down. Where else will they go? Zephyr actually gets taken down to the Zuka, and now the Bubbler is online, but no, King Jaw picks up the Rainmaker, steals it out from under Chocolate Milkshake's noses. And they'll have to regroup here, pop the Rainmaker, stall out for a little bit more time, and it looks like they're going to be able to find the checkpoint pedestal here, but I don't know how much further they'll be able to get because of how many resources they've already committed. We'll see just how forward they're able to get. They will technically take the lead as they pick up the Rainmaker one more time, and now they're starting to think about making the push. Here comes the strikes to push some of these members back, and it will get to 1 down. Now, actually, they're already almost going to knock it out, but it gets stopped at the 3-point mark. Those strikes cause such chaos in front of the pedestal that it allows Chocolate Milkshake to go so far forward.
Yeah, 3 is going to be such a tough number to get to. If there is a map to do it on, it might be Humpback Pump Track, because it is not uncommon at all to see pushes get to 20 and below, and there is a sizable amount of time left on the clock here, but Chocolate Milkshake doing everything in their power to lock this one down. They have multiple specials online as they're trying to prevent another Helios push here. Coming from the left this time as they're trying to watch out for the, I guess, left and right-sided tri-strikes that come their way. They are still going to survive by sitting right in the middle of them. Now looking over to see if they can get the high ground and spot out where Chocolate Milkshake is hiding, but they find instead a roller who is waiting for them to peek their head above, and they are going to take out that Rainmaker as a result. Still plenty of time, and they do get the Kraken out of Helios. I say get out, but more so, that's going to be a pick received there for Helios against Chocolate Milkshake. Despite that, just getting too close to Shormat, they're going to go down to the Rainmaker explosion, further delaying things here. So maybe I would say 1 or 2 strong pushes left on the side of Helios.
Chocolate Milkshake doing a fantastic job of holding this Rainmaker in a very annoying spot, but just before it gets taken down, Helios is going to get to it. Now they have potential here because they're just able to storm right up this runway. The Zuka has already come out and bombs are starting to get thrown towards it. Closure tries to hold the angle, but now it's going to get pushed away. Strikes come out here as well, and now we're under a minute left to go. 2 down on either side. Titan has to hold the line, but knows there's a lot of room to work with here, and to wait for the rest of the teammates to come back online. Closure still back on the right side, and now it's a full 4v4. Bombs coming down. King Jaw starts to move forward here and will take care of Ivy. Titan, though, starting to close in, and now will get dropped down. That's a 2-down situation. Zephyr tries to go for broke onto the Rainmaker, but also drops down. Full purple ink. Closure taken down as well. King Jaw jumps back online. This is very much going to the side of Helios right now, but they still can't make it to the pedestal because they didn't have full control over it, but they get the repop. 2 go down. That's the wipeout, and there's the knockout. Helios will be your winners of qualifier number 3 at the SAC Season 9, and how did they do that?
My absolute goodness. You could sort of see the writing on the wall there. It looked like there were multiple opportunities just on the overhead spec cam that they had pure purple in front of them, but smart enough to know that multiple members were jumping down. You mentioned King Jaw playing gatekeeper, preventing them from getting down too far, getting a splat on the other roller, making sure they couldn't come through, defeating the one pincer attack that was attempted from sort of the bottom side after getting onto that ink rail. And Helios does exactly what they needed to do, which was stop Chocolate Milkshake on Rainmaker before they allowed them to get to a game 5 on Splat Zone. So a phenomenal job, not dissuaded by a push from the #1 overall seed all the way up to 3. They hold on. The Rainmaker exudes patience there towards the end and waits for the rest of their team to not only call out when those tri-strikes were coming through, but also put that big bubbler up to give the non-pushing members of the team some more survivability there. So they stop all of those special pushes, are able to make themselves get all the way through and weather that storm we said they needed to from multiple teams, most recently Chocolate Milkshake, to win the 3rd qualifier here and knock off a string of 2 straight victories that Chocolate Milkshake was looking to make a 3rd.
Well, hats off. And, you know, if there's any time to start trying to shift the tides, it's now, because the season is slowly starting to wrap up here. We got one more qualifier coming up soon, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But hats off there, of course, to Helios. Doubted them a little bit, but they doubled down on those strikes, and they were able to come out victorious because they actually, once again, had that roller sync up. That's the one thing that I'm a fan of about these strikes. They were able to do exactly what they needed to, despite some earlier games not looking quite as good. Even still, hats off there. Helios has got their own game to play. They're comfortable with how they're doing it. Now we'll see just how far they can go this coming season, as already knocking off the favorites here in Qualifier 3. Qualifier 4, of course, another opportunity. Helios could potentially match Chocolate Milkshake for number of qualifier wins with that one. That'll come up in 2 weeks on November 23rd, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, you can go to sac.inc for all of the short links to each of the qualifier tournaments to view them on sendo.inc. Also, do want to shout out our other brackets here as they are starting to wrap up, although they've got a little bit of a ways to go here. Silver bracket, Geomancy currently 1-0 up on Distinct in their finals, and in the bronze bracket, it is Paradigm Starfish taking it over Swan Lake 3-1. Shout outs to everyone. And you too, of course, can participate and make it into one of the brackets and just be involved in the community at all by signing up for the qualifier, the last one of the season, in 2 weeks.
Got to give shout outs as well to Triggerfish Zone Supremacy. They do secure the 3rd place finish here today. So that is going to be, was going to be already their best finish of these 3 qualifiers, but gets themselves 120 points, where before they were sitting on back-to-back 100s with a sweep over the 14th seeded Lunar Eclipse. So a great showing from them to secure what will be 110 points for 4th place. And of course, to our competitors, not just in the gold bracket, but in the silver and bronze bracket. A fantastic job, as K-Bot mentioned. Still one more qualifier to go through. So still lots happening. November 23rd at 11 a.m. Pacific time is where you want to be. right here on twitch.tv/IPL Splatoon. So stay tuned for it. K-Bot, it's been an absolute blast catching this tournament with you. I'm so glad we got to see, again, some teams that you knew, some teams that you didn't. And now we have something to look forward to for this fourth and final qualifier that's coming up here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, fourth and final qualifier, but of course the finale afterwards will be something that you'll be sure that everyone will want to tune into. Zach, been a pleasure. Also, wants to shout out everyone working behind the scenes. Samapuris was our streamer today. Well, there's the staff actually on screen. Look at that. Whoa, we've got a credit sequence, everybody. Look at the slides. Shout out to everyone who's been able to help out today putting this event together. The SAC overall does a fantastic level of work, and it wouldn't be possible without all the folks you see on your screen now. So shout outs to all of them. They're working hard to make sure that the leaderboards are up to date before the fourth qualifier taking off in 2 weeks. So make sure that you're tuning in there, Zach. Otherwise, I think that's it for us.
Yeah, I think that's going to do it again. Thank you so much to tuning in to the SAC Season 9 third qualifier out of 4. We'll see you back here on November 23rd at 11 a.m. PT for the fourth and final qualifier. Also, check out the finals link and all of the socials as well of our staff and participants. But for everybody here for the SAC and for IPL Splatoon, that's going to do it for our third qualifier. Congratulations again to Helios on the victory. And until next time, we'll see you later.